The sky was blood red, and the moon was stained with the color of death, casting its pall over a ruined building. Inside, the corridor was ravaged, strewn with blood and debris, signaling a horrific escape. The emergency exit door was splattered with blood, a strange red light emanating from its round window, giving off an unsettling feeling. A group of survivors desperately clung to the door. The black-haired man leading them yelled, "Close it quickly." The black-haired man gritted his teeth, his face taut as a bowstring, as the pressure from outside grew increasingly terrifying. The door burst open, and a horde of hideous, ravenous zombies poured in. Someone screamed in despair, "We're done for, they've caught up." The black-haired man watched the surging zombies, strangely calm amidst the chaos, wondering, what do we do now? There are too many of them. A special zombie with green hair clinging to the ceiling lunged down. The spiky blonde-haired man yelled, "Damn it, we'll have to fight to the death." The green-haired zombie shot down like an arrow. The two blonde-haired men could only freeze, watching it attack. A massive metal pipe suddenly swung, smashing the green-haired zombie, and the entire group behind it into a pulpy mess. The black-haired man ordered, "Keep pushing them back," while the two blonde-haired men used the pipe as a weapon to block the door. But outside, a colossal, obese zombie was leading an entire sea of undead, and the pressure on the door intensified. The black-haired man pulled the pin from a grenade, his eyes sharp, deciding to take a big gamble. He threw the grenade through the gap, aiming straight into the midst of the crowded zombie horde. The grenade flew directly into the obese zombie's face, embedding itself among its minions. The two blonde-haired men quickly slammed the door shut, just before the explosion echoed. Boom! A terrifying explosion blew away the door and everything around it, clearing out the nearby zombies. As the smoke and dust cleared, the entire team looked at the mess, and the black-haired man asked, "Is it over?" A team member pointed forward, shouting excitedly, "Hey look!" A vibrant blue energy gate appeared in the middle of the room, announcing that the safe house had emerged, with only 2 minutes remaining before the zone closed. The narration began. A sudden catastrophe struck, claiming half of humanity and completely changing the world. Since then, special zones appeared everywhere, completely isolated from the outside world. Inside these zones, bloodthirsty zombies hunted the trapped survivors, whose only mission was to find the safe house to survive. Those who failed to reach the safe house on time would turn into zombies, and in just half a year, 80% of humanity had vanished. However, the survivors within these zones continuously grew stronger, and from them, formidable individuals emerged. The ultimate goal for top-tier individuals was the Grand Slam, clearing all zones up to level 100 to receive supreme power and rewards. And today, for the first time, a level 100 zone had appeared, and someone was on the verge of conquering it. The black-haired man and his 5 elite teammates were advancing, just one step away from their final objective. He clenched his fist, full of determination. "As long as I enter the safe house, I'll be the first to achieve the Grand Slam." But life is not a dream. A blonde female zombie with bloodshot eyes suddenly lunged out, blocking their path. The black-haired man froze, his face changing color because this mutated creature was clearly not in the script. The boss roared, and the black-haired man quickly shouted orders to the team. "Everyone, fall back." Whoosh! An incredibly powerful impact sent the black-haired man flying into the wall, getting beaten right from the first combat phase. The black-haired man struggled to his feet, bitterly realizing the problem. Damn it, there are even gatekeepers at the safe house. The blonde boss hovered in midair, her entire body enveloped by a deadly aura, looking like the real deal. The black-haired man assessed that this boss was on an entirely different level, but his eyes blazed with fighting spirit, determined not to retreat. His eyes glowed red, and he turned to ask the team about their remaining equipment. "Are there any useful items left?" The entire team checked their inventory, finding only 5 speed potions and 1 strength potion, a meager amount for a final boss battle. The black-haired man immediately strategized. "You all use speed potions to hold it back. I'll use the strength potion to deliver the finishing blow. There's only one chance." The black-haired man charged straight towards the boss as it swung its claws, simultaneously pouring the strength potion into his mouth. The black-haired man collapsed, his entire body limp, unable to get back up. The system delivered a shocking message. Weakness potion. Reduces all stats by 50% for 20 seconds. The black-haired man gritted his teeth, realizing the potion his teammates gave him was a fake. The blonde-haired man flashed a wicked smile, his eyes bloodshot. "It's our turn now." He chugged the superior speed potion, increasing his agility by 100%, preparing to make his escape. All the former teammates chorused "Go!" then turned and fled, abandoning their captain. While still reeling from the betrayal, the black-haired man took a full punch from the blonde boss. The blonde-haired man sneered. No mistake, we prepared this specifically for you. He casually explained their dirty plan. As long as you hold it back, we'll clear the stage safely. The entire traitorous team rushed forward, the blonde-haired man boasting loudly. Thanks for being our meat shield. Now I'm the strongest. The black-haired man remained helpless, his body devoid of strength, only able to watch powerlessly. With only 10 seconds left, the black-haired man bitterly realized. These bastards had planned to eliminate me from the very beginning. The blonde-haired man looked back, his voice full of sarcasm. Don't worry. I'll tell everyone you died heroically for your teammates. He continued to rub salt into the wound. I'm really looking forward to the day I get to kill you myself when you turn into a zombie. The countdown is at 6 seconds. Rage erupted, and the black-haired man screamed in despair. You treacherous bastards. The boss gave him no time to curse. Its razor-sharp claws plunged down. Crash. An attack tore through the ground right in front of him. He knelt, facing the towering boss, with only one bitter thought in his mind. Am I going to die so pointlessly like this? It was too late. Countless sharp spikes pierced his body amidst his ultimate resentment. As the special zone began to disintegrate, the black-haired man collapsed, his consciousness fading with the thought. After all that hard work, I'm finally dying like a zombie. The black-haired man watched his hand slowly dissolving into purple smoke, as the system coldly announced, the zombification process has begun. His eyes blazed with fury, and he gritted his teeth, wondering, how could I accept this fate, to die, betrayed by my own comrades? He roared his final vow before his consciousness disintegrated. Even if I turn into a zombie, I will surely have my revenge. I will tear you bastards apart. The black-haired man's consciousness slowly sank into a pitch-black void, his body drifting aimlessly in helplessness and self-mockery over a failed life. A direct kick to his body jolted him awake, as a resentful voice echoed in his ear. Are you mocking me? The black-haired man lifted his face from the ground, his eyes still bewildered, sweat streaming down as he tried to grasp the situation. A tall, red-haired brute loomed into view, his voice thuggish. Didn't I tell you to bring 5,000 yen for protection money here? He realized this was the very bully who had tormented him in high school. Behind the bully were two subordinates and a crowd of onlookers, all wearing school uniforms. A chubby boy wearing glasses stepped forward, trembling as he said he had no money, trying to defuse the situation. The red-haired brute immediately grabbed the chubby boy's collar, growling a threat. If you don't have it, go steal it. Otherwise, from now on, I'll beat you every time I see you. The black-haired man stood up, his gaze sharp as a dagger, staring directly at the scene before him, without a trace of weakness. He realized he was on the school rooftop, where he used to be bullied. This painful sensation was too real. This was not a dream. A subordinate whispered to his boss. What should we do now? Oh, Ichijo definitely has money. He hides his part-time job earnings in his bag. The black-haired man scornfully looked at the petty thug's face, betraying his friend. His mind began to process the situation. His head was full of questions, but it seemed he had returned to the time before the great catastrophe. He coldly cut him off, asking the red-haired brute directly, Hey, what's the date today? The bully sneered, his attitude extremely arrogant. Are you stupid? Who do you think you're talking to? He stepped closer, his face arrogant. We know you have money. Don't even think about playing games with us. Hand over your bag, quick! Before he could even finish his sentence, a fist flew straight into the red-haired brute's face. Wham! A thunderous punch deformed the bully's face. Blood gushed from his nose like a faucet, to everyone's astonishment. The two subordinates froze, watching their boss Mineta get sent flying backward, collapsing unconscious, the fight ending before it even began. Mineta's subordinates gaped, unable to believe their eyes. No way, he dared to hit Mineta. The entire group of petty thugs froze, completely shocked by the unbelievable turn of events. The black-haired man clenched his fist, feeling the power from his previous life still intact, and thought to himself, it seems this life, I won't end up as a good-for-nothing anymore. Recalling the past, Mineta Ippei, a third-year bully, specialized in extorting money under the guise of protection fees. Being an orphan, and having to work part-time to make a living, he was the perfect target for these bastards. The bully growled. Didn't I tell you to bring the protection money here? Even though he had just paid 2 days ago, he realized, as long as Mineta targeted him, the others would safely stand by and watch as if it were a play. Before, he would only tremble when Mineta yelled, Answer me quickly, you trash. But now it was different. The black-haired man coldly repeated his question, while Mineta could only clutch his face and groan. You bastard! The surrounding students began to whisper, panicked. Ichijo dared to hit Mineta. Is he crazy? That guy is definitely dead. Seeing their boss defeated, the two subordinates yelled, "What are you doing? Go get him!" Then charged to attack. But their skill was merely amateurish. The black-haired man easily dodged their attacks and delivered a devastating elbow strike to one's nape. The subordinate fell face first, unconscious on the spot. The remaining two froze for a second time. What the hell is this? This combat experience was not acquired naturally. He had to train relentlessly to survive in the apocalyptic world. He had endured countless sleepless nights, hiding and sneaking amidst hordes of the undead to survive. Countless near-death experiences had left his back covered in battle scars. The remaining subordinate yelled, "You're getting too cocky," then threw a punch straight at his face. "Too slow." The black-haired man easily blocked it and delivered a thunderous uppercut. The two subordinates lay sprawled. One fearfully backed away, his voice trembling, "Don't come closer." While the black-haired man realized that humans were even more terrifying than zombies. The black-haired man gave the last one no chance, charging with a decisive punch, telling himself, "I won't let this opportunity slip away. This life will be different." Ichijo coldly swung a finishing punch at the last petty thug. Wham! A crushing blow sent the subordinate flying, instantly knocked out. Mineta regained consciousness, his face pale, seeing his two subordinates wiped out in an instant. Ichijo's eyes blazed, and he swore he would make these scumbags pay for what they did in his previous life. The chubby student froze, unable to believe Ichijo was so strong. It must have been a fluke. Mineta deluded himself, thinking it was just some amateur moves picked up from the internet. He roared, "Die!" Then charged and threw a full-force punch. No way. Mineta was stunned. Ichijo effortlessly blocked his punch with just one hand. The skill gap was too vast. Looking into eyes devoid of fear but filled with overwhelming killing intent, Mineta felt a chill run down his spine. Ichijo grabbed Mineta's head, preparing for a brutal counterattack. Thud. A direct knee strike to the stomach made Mineta double over like a shrimp. Blood gushed from his mouth and nose. The bully had tasted true pain. Mineta fell backward onto the ground, completely helpless against Ichijo's power. The students watching froze. Each one panicked as they realized they too had once bullied this monster. Ichijo realized his full power from the previous life hadn't been retained, and was annoyed that the bully had passed out before he could ask what day it was. He looked around, wondering where the remaining petty thugs had run off to. In a corner, a figure was stealthily backing away, intending to slip away quietly. The chubby student flinched when he was called back. Ichijo was already standing right behind him, his voice icy. "Where are you rushing off to?" making the boy freeze in fear. The chubby student was sweating profusely, stammering out the current date to Ichijo. Ichijo coldly replied, "Wait a moment. I still have a debt to settle," terrifying the chubby boy, who begged him not to come closer. Ichijo confirmed the timeline. April 20th, 2024, leaving only about a month until the apocalypse. Sitting in class, Ichijo began to calculate. His current strength was only 30% of his previous life's, but still more than enough to handle a few small fry. He continued to ponder about stockpiling survival items, then suddenly paused as a thought flashed through his mind. Inventory, open. Ichijo tried to summon the familiar thing, and a blue virtual screen appeared before him. He knew it. His inventory from his previous life had returned with him, even though it had been reset to level 1. He recalled the day the apocalypse struck, when special zones appeared all over the world. Society completely collapsed, and humanity was plunged into extreme fear with nothing left to protect them. Survival became the greatest challenge, as people slaughtered each other to fight for resources. In response, the system granted all of humanity a level 1 inventory, a personal storage space. The inventory could hold anything, but because time inside was frozen, it couldn't store living creatures. In his previous life, Ichijo had frantically grinded to expand his inventory to the size of a basketball court. Now, even though it was only level 1, it was still a huge advantage for a regressor like him. Ichijo laid out his plan. Expand his inventory and stockpile necessities, utilizing his experience and information from his previous life. And most importantly, he wouldn't let those who betrayed him off the hook. This time, he would have his revenge. The scene shifted to a dark alley, where a purge was underway. A muscular blonde man swung a baseball bat, smashing his opponent who lay slumped on the ground. The blonde man smirked. "Looks like he's passed out," while a larger figure approached from behind. The scarred boss coldly ordered, "Splash water on him to wake him up, then keep hitting him." While a subordinate reported, "Boss, it seems your subordinate Mineta got into trouble at school." The subordinate reported that Mineta failed to collect protection money, while the red-haired man, bruised and battered, tremblingly called out, "Boss." Wham! The boss didn't say much, immediately delivering a devastating punch to Mineta that made his face twist to the side. The dark-haired subordinate quickly helped Mineta up, scolding him to stand straight. The scarred boss, Hatano Toshiki, darkened his face and growled. "You dare come back here empty-handed?" Hatano angrily cursed because his subordinates always mess things up at the last minute, while the blonde man with the bat stood behind him. Mineta's face went pale, and he quickly explained, "Wait," he stammered, recounting that all of his subordinates had been easily dealt with by some brat, while the boss's baseball bat hovered above his head. Hatano ordered the blonde man, "You take the goons and drag that punk back here for me. If he tries to hide after school, you'll pay." Hatano gritted his teeth, his eyes blazing, determined to utterly crush the one who had defeated his subordinate. In the classroom, the students were inviting each other to hang out after school, completely unaware of the storm about to hit the school gates. Ichijo recalled from his previous life that scarred boss was the one backing the small fry Mineta. Hatano's past was revealed. A former professional baseball player with terrifying bat-swinging speed, specializing in hitting home runs. But his violent nature turned Hatano into a tyrant, eventually getting him kicked off the team for using his bat to strike his own teammates. His baseball career ended, and Hatano officially stepped into the underworld, becoming a true gangster along with his brutish subordinates. After school, Ichijo calmly walked out onto the school grounds when the chubby friend called out to him, "Ichijo, wait!" Ichijo turned back with a cold gaze, looking puzzled. The chubby friend frantically warned, "Mineta's gang is definitely waiting at the school gate to kill you." But Ichijo simply replied, "So what?" At the school gate, other students began to whisper upon seeing a gang loitering outside. Hatano's gang had arrived, led by the blonde man carrying a bat, followed by the swollen-faced Mineta, the whole group looking extremely menacing. Mineta suddenly recognized his target. His eyes lit up as he saw Ichijo approaching. Mineta pointed. "That's him!" The chubby friend panicked. "What do we do? They found us. Should we run back into the school and hide?" The chubby friend still tried to persuade him, shouting that this gang wasn't small fry like Mineta. Ichijo, expressionless, said, "If you don't need anything, I'm leaving." Ichijo muttered to himself, "Time waits for no one. In 1 month, the zones will appear and the zombies will swarm out." While Ichijo was calculating his survival plan, a gang member blocked his path. "Hey, come here, let's talk for a bit. All outsiders, scram." The subordinate slung an arm over Ichijo's shoulder, his voice full of menace. "If you don't want to lose face, come with us quietly." Ichijo thought to himself, "These goons might be useful." The students stood watching from a distance as Ichijo was escorted away. One of them whispered, "Hess screwed. Of all people to mess with, he had to pick Mineta. Hess definitely going to disappear tomorrow." The chubby friend's face was drained of color, extremely worried for Ichijo. The subordinate led Ichijo before the boss, reporting, "Boss, I brought him here. He didn't dare to run." Ichijo meanwhile was calm, because his plan had begun the moment he punched Mineta. Ichijo faced a muscular man who was brandishing a baseball bat, his sharp eyes showing no fear. He recognized the leader as Hatano, thinking only, "If the hunter is careless, the prey will bite back." Hatano Toshiki frowned, a little surprised by his opponent's composure. "You've got some guts, don't you?" Mineta, his face still swollen, stepped forward to taunt. "You're just pretending to be calm, aren't you? You're scared out of your wits, aren't you?" The entire gang surrounded Ichijo, and Mineta continued his trash talk, "Kneel and apologize, and we'll let you off. Otherwise, don't even dream of going home." The subordinate from earlier again put his arm around Ichijo's shoulder, sneering. "Do you even know who you've provoked? You'd better have at least 1,000,000 yen ready." Wham! Before he could finish his sentence, the subordinate took a devastating punch to the face from Ichijo. The subordinate's eyes widened in horror, completely unable to believe he had just been attacked so swiftly. The blonde man with the bat roared, "You bastard!" then swung his bat straight at Ichijo's head. Ichijo lightly ducked, effortlessly dodging the powerful bat swing as if it were a joke. Without giving his opponent time to recover, Ichijo unleashed an incredibly swift leg sweep, causing the blonde man to lose his balance and drop his bat. The baseball bat clattered to the ground. Ichijo stood firm, and the situation had completely turned. The bald wrestler loomed up behind Ichijo, exuding murderous intent like a boss about to unleash an attack. The wrestler grabbed Ichijo tightly from behind in a terrifying chokehold, roaring, "Stay still." The entire gang surrounded them, the boss ordering them not to let Ichijo escape, while another thug swung a bat, threatening to break his legs. Ichijo glanced down. The baseball bat of the thug he had just defeated lay right by his feet. Without a wasted movement, Ichijo used the tip of his shoe to kick the bat into the air. He snatched the bat and thrust its butt directly into the face of the bald man holding him, blood splattering. Another spiky-haired subordinate shouted, "Die!" then swung his bat straight down onto Ichijo's head. Ichijo casually raised his bat to block the attack, stopping the blow as easily as pie. He spun around to gain momentum, shifting from defense to offense in a flash. A lightning-fast and clean uppercut sent the spiky-haired thug straight to the ground. Ichijo's amber eyes flashed, cold and full of experience. The subordinate in the white jacket from earlier had recovered, seizing the opportunity to swing his bat in a sneak attack on Ichijo's back. Mineta and Boss Hatano were visibly delighted, Mineta even cheering. Good, it hit. But no, Ichijo had used his backpack to completely block the blow without a scratch, his voice icy. No, it didn't hit. The subordinate froze in shock, stammering in disbelief. He blocked it at such close range. Ichijo didn't give him time to process. He spun around and delivered a kick straight to the man's jaw. The subordinate fell to the ground, unconscious, leaving Mineta and Hatano completely stunned. The entire battlefield. Ichijo stood amidst a circle of sprawling bodies, all of them dealt with in an instant. Mineta broke out in a cold sweat, trembling and wondering why this scrawny student had suddenly become so unreasonably strong. Boss Hatano finally entered the fray, his eyes blazing with bloodlust, signaling that the real boss battle was about to begin. Hatano Toshiki stepped over a fallen subordinate, advancing to face Ichijo. The scarred boss held a baseball bat, facing Ichijo, who had just cleared out his small fry. Whoosh! Hatano swung his bat with all his might, aiming straight for Ichijo's head, but it was too slow. Ichijo casually raised his hand, snatching the bat right in front of him, stopping the attack with ease. Without a wasted movement, Ichijo used the bat itself as a lever, flipping the bulky boss over his shoulder. Hatano's eyes widened in horror, completely unable to comprehend what had just happened. It wasn't over yet. Ichijo followed up with a kick to his side, sending him flying a short distance. Ichijo landed lightly, while Hatano stumbled backward, beginning to realize his opponent's true skill. The boss muttered to himself, acknowledging Ichijo's skill. Not bad. Well-rounded offense and defense, no wasted movements. Is this guy really a high school student? Hatano swung his bat again, but Ichijo was even faster, his eyes flashing with a deadly red light. Ichijo's blazing golden eyes swept over his opponent, coldly judging. His entire body is full of openings. Wham! Ichijo used Hatano's own bat to strike him directly in the face. The incredibly powerful impact deformed Hatano's face, blood splattering everywhere. The terrifying force of the blow sent the boss flying backward. Mineta stood from a distance, mouth agape, eyes wide, unable to believe the sight before him. Hatano fell sprawling on the ground, coughing violently, his hands clutching his battered face. Mineta rushed over in a panic. "Boss, are you all right?" The boss realized he had poked a hornet's nest, secretly cursing his idiotic subordinate Mineta for picking a fight with a monster. Hatano knelt down, trembling, looking up at Ichijo, having completely lost all will to fight. Ichijo looked down with contempt. In Hatano's mind, there was only one thought. This guy never took us seriously from the start. The boss hastily raised his hands in surrender, his voice panicked. "Wait, I'm backing down. Just deal with Mineta. It'll give you this whole territory." Ichijo narrowed his eyes, his voice chillingly cold. "I don't care about Mineta." Hatano froze as Ichijo pointed directly at him. "What I'm interested in is you." Night fell upon the city. A new purge was about to begin. In a VIP room, a muscular, gray-haired boss was reveling with a group of girls when he heard that Hatano had been beaten by a mere high school kid. Hatano, his face bruised and battered, begged the gray-haired boss to eliminate Ichijo, but the price was 1/3 of his territory. Hatano was furious at the forced price, but the gray-haired boss sneered, reminding him that he was the one begging for help. Hatano recalled Ichijo's threat. Though he didn't understand his intentions, he decided he had to eliminate this threat immediately. The gray-haired boss sealed the deal. "All right, we'll deal with him tonight." Suddenly, the gray-haired boss frowned as a stranger dared to barge into his private room. All the thugs in the VIP room turned to look. A figure had brazenly stepped into their lair. Ichijo pulled down his cap, coldly declaring, "I'm here to find someone." Hatano's face turned pale, his soul almost leaving his body, as he realized the student monster had tracked him all the way here. Ichijo stood tall, delivering a fatal psychological blow. "I'm here on Boss Hatano's orders." The scene shifts to his private room. Ichijo was training frantically. Realizing this body was still too weak, he gritted his teeth, performing each sit-up, determined to reforge his body to prepare for his bloody revenge. Exhausted, sprawling on the floor, Ichijo knew that strength couldn't be gained overnight, and the main challenge still lay ahead. Back in the present, Ichijo looked directly at the gang members, repeating, "I'm here on Boss Hatano's orders." The gray-haired boss narrowed his eyes in suspicion. He couldn't believe Hatano would be foolish enough to let a kid who didn't know the rules barge in here. Hatano was in utter panic, stammering, trying to deny it, but it was too late. Ichijo smirked. His scheme to sow discord had succeeded perfectly. Ichijo calmly declared that he had cleared out the small fry outside, leaving Hatano and the gray-haired boss stunned. The job is done as per boss's orders. Now only this place remains. The gray-haired boss narrowed his eyes, ordering his subordinates to immediately check the security cameras. The tablet screen displayed a horrifying sight. All the henchmen had been taken down, lying scattered in front of the door. A blonde subordinate with a star tattoo under his eye taunted Ichijo, not believing a kid could do this. "Are you kidding? Or did you drug them?" Hatano broke out in a cold sweat, realizing he was in huge trouble, as Ichijo's words turned out to be true. Crack! He furiously crushed the glass in his hand. His plan had completely fallen apart. The gray-haired boss saw Hatano's reaction, his eyes filled with suspicion. The boss' gaze swept over Ichijo, realizing this kid's reflexes were not those of an ordinary student. The star-tattooed man lost his patience, yelling orders at his subordinates. "What are you standing around for? Go and capture him now." The gray-haired boss raised his hand to stop them, his voice full of hidden meaning. "I see you came prepared. You didn't think I'd let that guy take me down, did you?" Holding the broken glass shard, he declared that the organization's rule was not to harm guests, but if a guest broke the rules first, it was a different matter, making Hatano panic and beg. Without a word of warning, the gray-haired boss grabbed Hatano by the collar and lifted him up. Hatano struggled desperately, trying to explain. "That kid is the one who asked me to deal with you. I don't know why he's here either." The boss sneered savagely, bluntly declaring, "What's the point of killing a brat? But if I kill you, everything you have will be mine. Thanks for breaking the rules first." Finishing his words, he tightened his grip, preparing to smash Hatano's head onto the table. Thud! The entire table shook as Hatano's head was slammed directly onto the glass surface. The lounge girls could only stand and watch. Hatano gritted his teeth, enduring the blow, with only one thought in his mind. "In this situation, anything I say is useless. I must escape from here at all costs." While they were in disarray, the star-tattooed man decided to act on his own, charging straight towards Ichijo, wondering what the hell this kid was plotting. Just as the star-tattooed man grabbed Ichijo's collar, he immediately took a devastating punch to the face, without even understanding what was happening. Not giving his opponent a chance to recover, Ichijo spun around and delivered a kick that sent the star-tattooed man flying. The star-tattooed man and his subordinate lay sprawled on the floor, bottles and jars shattered after Ichijo's devastating kick. The gray-haired boss froze, unable to believe his eyes. Took down two guys in an instant. Not a single wasted movement. Ichijo calmly adjusted his cap, exuding an overwhelming aura that made the boss wonder, what kind of monster is this guy? A brown-haired henchman, seeing his comrades hesitate, immediately yelled, "What are you standing there dumbfounded for?" The entire group of thugs, brandishing weapons, rushed forward, shouting, intending to overwhelm him with numbers. "Hurry up, deal with him." The brown-haired man swung his fist straight at Ichijo's face, thinking this time he was sure to land a hit. Ichijo lightly raised his hand, blocking the thug's punch with utmost ease. Wham! A direct palm strike to the face sent the brown-haired man's head snapping back, his face contorted. Ichijo glided forward with the speed of a gust of wind, approaching the crowd. He charged straight into the pack of wolves, delivering a thunderous punch to the gut of a burly man, making him double over. Another man seized the opportunity to tightly hug Ichijo from behind, yelling loudly, "Got him! Hurry!" The blond man holding an iron pipe roared, swinging his weapon, intending to smash Ichijo's head. "It's over." Thinking too simply, Ichijo used the man hugging him as a shield, and at the same time, delivered a kick that sent the pipe-wielding man flying. The blond man, not giving up, grabbed a glass bottle, yelled, "Take this," and charged in again. Ichijo didn't bother to dodge, grabbed the blond man's arm, then slammed the bottle straight onto the head of the man holding him. Crash! The bottle shattered, and the human shield could only freeze and endure the attack. Taking advantage of his opponent's dazed state, Ichijo spun around and delivered a devastating kick to the shin of the man still holding him. The thug gaped, letting out a pathetic scream as his leg bone cracked. Without a second's rest, Ichijo thrust his elbow into the face of another man charging from the side. Ichijo single-handedly fought through the encirclement. With each strike, another man fell, turning the group assault into a spectacular solo performance. The gray-haired boss broke out in a cold sweat, unable to believe his eyes. "Are you kidding? He single-handedly wiped out almost all the small fry. Looking at the battlefield littered with bodies, the boss realized that if things continued this way, he would also be eliminated, and was determined to kill that kid no matter what. Ichijo turned around, his eyes, sharp as daggers, locked onto the final target. Hatano Toshiki, in a panic, tried to grab the gun on the floor, but the gray-haired boss grabbed his arm, stopping him and roaring. "Hatano, what the hell are you doing?" Hatano growled, arguing that using a gun on a student was unacceptable. The gray-haired boss furiously retorted, "He beat you senseless too. Don't get in my way of finishing him off." Meanwhile, Ichijo finished off another man, while calculating that keeping Hatano alive would be more beneficial to him. The gray-haired boss decided to change targets, roaring, "Then I'll kill you first," leaving Hatano stunned, unable to believe a kid could corner him like this. Hatano realized all escape routes were blocked, and that student kid was now his only lifeline, so he lunged forward and tightly embraced the boss. Unexpectedly obstructed, the gray-haired boss stumbled and fell backward. He fell sprawling on the floor, his eyes suddenly lit up as he saw a pistol within reach. Without a moment's hesitation, he snatched the gun, letting out a savage roar, "Die!" Hatano was utterly terrified as he saw the dark muzzle of the gun pointed at him. The gray-haired boss laughed maniacally, smugly thinking that only two people dared to mess with him. Whoosh! A devastating kick from Ichijo flew straight into the boss's jaw, accompanied by a cold declaration, "Your territory is mine." Hatano panted, slumping onto the sofa, looking at the gray-haired boss lying unconscious on the floor, muttering, "That kid took down not just me, but this entire group, all in one day." Ichijo coldly asked, "What do you think?" leaving Hatano bewildered and confused. Ichijo reminded him of their conversation from earlier that day, explaining that Hatano had no way out with the organization, and the reason he chose him was simply because I happened to meet you first. Hatano bitterly acknowledged his luck, then looked at the battlefield and asked Ichijo how he intended to clean it up, immediately receiving the answer, "Turn it into your territory. I told you I'd elevate you." Ichijo laid out his plan. Hatano would step up as the boss, while Ichijo would operate in the shadows because appearing publicly at this time would be very inconvenient. Ichijo declared bluntly, "I will expand my influence, elevate you, and drain all the funds from your organization. I need a lot of money." Hatano looked dumbfounded, unable to believe his ears. "What?" Frustrated, Hatano poured a drink, muttering that nothing he said now would change the situation. He emptied his glass, deciding to bet on this crazy kid. "I'll drink to your plan." Ichijo coldly reminded him of a harsh truth. "Did you forget? I'm still a high school student." "Do you have money?" Ichijo asked directly, leaving Hatano dumbfounded. Hatano thought bitterly to himself, never imagining a day would come when a boss like him would be extorted by a kid. He pulled out a small bill and handed it to Ichijo. "This is all I have on me. If it's not enough, you'll get more." Ichijo simply replied, "Just enough for a taxi." Hatano screamed silently, unable to believe he was partnering with a kid who couldn't even afford a ride. Ichijo began outlining his plan, asking about the gang's structure. "Including this place, how many allies and how much capital do you have?" Hatano revealed information about his rivals, pointing at the unconscious gray-haired boss. "There are about 50 guys at Hiraguri's place. They specialize in cleaning up trouble, better quality than my men," he continued. "Hiraguri's crew is also armed with firearms by the organization, while my own faction only has 30 men. But if we merge, our forces will double." Ichijo asked about money, and Hatano admitted that both he and Hiraguri were small fry, not receiving much funding from the organization. Hatano explained about the top brass. Crane Ren handles the nightclub sector, Kawase Teruhisa manages the bodyguards, and the final boss, Kurosawa Tatsuya, controls all the funds. Ichijo reassured him with sharp eyes. "Don't worry. I'll soon put you in that position." Hatano sighed, thinking himself foolish for once, thinking this kid would get scared and retreat. Ichijo suggested exchanging contact information, but Hatano replied nonchalantly, "I don't have a phone." Hatano was speechless, slumping his face onto the table. "You don't even have a phone? How poor are you? Seriously?" Before leaving, Ichijo asked, "These guys are just unconscious. Can I leave them to you?" Hatano affirmed confidently, declaring he had called his men and would manage these defeated thugs strictly. Hatano, his face swollen, sat on the sofa, staring at Ichijo. "What the hell? You're here." Hatano's subordinates had just arrived, freezing when they saw Hiraguri's entire gang sprawled on the floor like trash. Mineta, the red-haired bully, now a subordinate in the gang, gaped when he saw his old classmate. "Ichijo, what are you doing here?" Ichijo coldly turned his back and walked away. Well, see you later. But Hatano quickly called him back. Wait, Hatano called out loudly, ordering Mineta. Mineta, come here for a moment. Ichijo turned back, naturally holding out his hand. You just got a phone, right? Lend it to me. Mineta, his face still bewildered, obediently pulled out his phone and handed it to his new boss. Hatano snatched the phone and handed it to Ichijo. Use this, all the contact information is in here. But Ichijo replied nonchalantly, I don't really need it. Hatano shoved the phone directly into Ichijo's hand, his voice firm. Just take it. The gang boss put his arm around Ichijo's shoulder, flattering him. Don't be shy, we're teammates now. You're my lifeline, how many men do you need? Ichijo's amber eyes narrowed, exuding a deadly calculation. Ichijo swatted Hatano's hand away, his voice commanding, It's fine, don't overthink it, just follow my orders. Hatano and Mineta stood frozen, speechless at the high school kid's boss-like demeanor. As Ichijo left, a subordinate asked Mineta about his classmate, and received the answer that he used to be a weakling, leaving the entire group in disbelief. Hatano broke out in a cold sweat, recalling Ichijo's terrifying killing intent, and told himself, He's still very cautious. We haven't earned his full trust yet. On the phone screen, a message inviting Mineta to the casino appeared, while Hatano secretly concluded, no matter what, there's no doubt, that guy is truly insane. Night fell on the bustling city street, and car lights swept past. Ichijo walked down the street, hearing people admire someone, and curled his lip in disdain when he heard the word teammate. 2 girls were pointing and admiring some celebrity, but Ichijo merely glanced at them with indifferent eyes. Ichijo affirmed his unwavering goal in his mind. I don't need teammates. I only have one goal. In the middle of the city night, Ichijo looked up at an advertisement screen, and only one word echoed in his mind, revenge. On the screen, Ijuin Nozomi, the son of the chairman of a top 10 global corporation, was speaking confidently. Ichijo recalled that this was the one who first analyzed the laws of survival after the catastrophe. In the past, Nozomi's corporation used subordinates to collect items, upgrade their inventory, and became absolute rulers when social order collapsed. Ichijo bitterly admitted that with his current student body, he couldn't even get close, let alone seek revenge. Nozomi's smug face appeared in Ichijo's mind. He knew he needed an enormous amount of money to prepare for the catastrophe, and his plan to turn the tables. Ichijo's eyes sharpened, determined to find and exploit opposing forces to weaken his enemies before the apocalypse began. Standing at the bus stop, Ichijo clenched his fists, vowing to return the pain he suffered to Nozomi tenfold. A brown-haired girl stood in front of Ichijo, complaining that he wasn't getting on the bus. Aren't you getting on? I'm in a hurry. Suddenly, in Ichijo's eyes, the girl transformed into a hideous zombie with jagged teeth and glowing red eyes, screaming. His warrior instincts kicked in, and Ichijo immediately retreated into a defensive stance, startling the girl, who didn't understand what was happening. Ichijo gritted his teeth, his inner self screaming. The great catastrophe hasn't even happened yet. Why are there zombies here? Everything around him was still normal. The other people at the bus stop looked at Ichijo as if he were insane. The girl and another male student looked at Ichijo with concern, assuming he was stressed, and quickly walked away. Ichijo clutched his head, wondering if he was hallucinating, when a mysterious voice echoed, "Prepare to begin." He was startled, frantically searching for the source of the voice he remembered hearing when he was reborn. Finding absolutely nothing, Ichijo stood in the middle of the bus stop, with an expression of extreme bewilderment. Suddenly, his vision changed again. The advertisement screen from earlier was now enveloped by a crimson energy flow, and he immediately recognized it. A special zone? Ichijo broke out in a cold sweat, unable to believe a zone had appeared even before the catastrophe struck. He looked at the crowd around him. Everyone was still moving normally. Not a single person reacted to the terrifying sight before them. Ichijo was stunned, and a chilling question arose in his mind. Could it be that only I can see it? Ichijo realized the mysterious voice was guiding him towards the special zone, which was glowing brightly in the middle of the city. The illusion of Ijuin Nozomi, his sworn enemy, appeared with a challenging smile, like an invitation for Ichijo to step into his doom. Ichijo gritted his teeth, his eyes blazing, determined not to let that bastard get ahead of him again. Ignoring the brown-haired girl screaming warnings of danger, Ichijo shot across the street like an arrow, heading straight for the building. His feet stepped into the blazing red energy field, officially accepting the game's invitation. He gasped as he realized a stunning truth. Only he could enter this zone a full month earlier, a heaven-sent advantage to farm resources before the entire server. Ichijo clenched his fist, deciding to seize this opportunity to increase his strength, preparing for the apocalypse and his revenge. A blazing red energy gate formed, signaling that special zone, Level 1, had officially opened for the sole player. Ichijo stepped through the gate without hesitation, ready to face whatever lay within. As soon as he set foot in the new space, he waved his hand as if bidding farewell to the old world, fully immersing himself in the game. Before him was a ruined landscape, and sluggish zombies appeared, confirming this was a real zone. A red quest screen suddenly appeared right before Ichijo. The special quest required him to defeat 15 regular zombies and 1 mutant zombie within 1 hour to find the safe house, with the final reward multiplied 5-fold. Ichijo frowned, realizing this quest was completely different from anything he had experienced in his previous life, perhaps related to that mysterious voice. But he quickly shook off his doubts, his sharp eyes focused on a single goal: how to complete this quest. He recalled his previous life. The first time he entered a zone, just finding a safe house was already a tough challenge. Now, he was brought directly to a relatively safe location, with a clear mission to clear out 15 regular zombies and 1 mutant. Ichijo began to scavenge basic survival items like first aid kits and an axe, essentials for any hunt. He clenched his fist, filled with confidence, for he knew the 2 most important treasures in this world were magic stones and special elements for crafting potions. Ichijo stood in the dilapidated warehouse, determined that once he stepped out, the real hard game would begin. With the axe in hand, he calculated that if the appearance of this zone wasn't random, he could pre-farm a month's worth of resources. Standing by the broken window, he looked down at the deathly scene below, preparing for the hunt. A sound echoed. Ichijo turned. His vigilant gaze swept across the warehouse. His amber eyes gleamed with determination. Once past the starting line, there would be no turning back. With the axe on his shoulder, Ichijo assessed the situation. This quest required 3 factors, the most important being time. He inherited a portion of his previous life's strength, but he couldn't be optimistic with this pathetic physique. Looking at his reflection, he analyzed. Even if it was just a beginner zone, dealing with 16 of them, including 1 mutant, would be quite tough. He realized the difficulty and atmosphere of this zone were completely different from his previous life. An unforeseen variable. Crash. A rotting zombie hand suddenly smashed the glass right in front of Ichijo. The bald, muscular zombie lunged in through the broken window, but Ichijo retreated in time. He thought to himself that he almost died if he had taken 1 more step forward. The low-level zombie growled, its eyes blazing red, charging straight towards Ichijo with a speed far exceeding that of a normal human. With his vast experience, Ichijo considered this zombie a formidable opponent for his current body. He knew these creatures, once they locked onto a target, would attack relentlessly and couldn't be stopped by conventional means. But Ichijo also knew their fatal weakness, the head. He swung his axe with a perfect arc, aiming straight for the neck of the charging monster. Slash. With a clean cut, the zombie's head flew through the air. A notification panel appeared. 1 regular zombie defeated. Time remaining: 56 minutes. Ichijo stood next to the headless corpse, planning his next move. He had to find the safe house in the opposite direction, avoid unnecessary combat, and conserve energy for the mutant boss. Just as he finished, Ichijo suddenly sensed something was wrong. His eyes narrowed. A new wave of killing intent had just appeared. Looking down the stairs, Ichijo froze when he saw a mutant zombie scrambling up. A system notification appeared. Gashin, rank 10, a monster with overwhelming arm power. Ichijo broke into a cold sweat, unable to believe such a formidable foe would appear right from the start. Gashin charged like a truck, delivering a devastating punch, and Ichijo only managed to raise his arms to block. The impact force was tremendous. Ichijo was blown backward, skidding across the floor. He muttered, realizing this was Gashin, the monster that had crushed countless people in his previous life. The mutant zombie gave him no time to breathe, swinging its massive hand down to strike. Ichijo gritted his teeth and rolled to dodge the blow by a hair's breadth. The pressure was immense. He assessed the situation. The terrain was terrible. A one-on-one fight here would only lead to his demise. He had to change positions immediately. Ichijo admitted that the strength of these zombies far surpassed his own, so he turned and fled up the stairs to lure the enemy. He recalled Gashin's characteristics from his previous life. Tough, but brainless. Its attack pattern was no different from regular zombies, and a plan began to form. As soon as he reached the upper floor, Ichijo stopped short. 2 other regular zombies were already waiting. Behind him, Gashin had also caught up, and he was officially trapped in a pincer attack. Ichijo's eyes turned cold, and he growled with determination. I won't die in this dump. Memories of the humiliation and pain of betrayal in his previous life flared up like wildfire. He took a stance, facing directly the growling Gashin that was charging towards him, determined to survive at all costs. Ichijo's amber eyes flashed with a deadly glint, ready for a life-or-death battle. Gashin slammed down a devastating blow, its power cracking the ground. Ichijo swung himself onto a crossbeam, his cold eyes looking down at the monster, vowing to avenge his previous life. "I will reclaim everything with my own hands," Ichijo growled, his resolve boiling as he faced the enraged Gashin. Gashin's crimson eyes flashed with murderous intent, locking onto its target. The monster roared, unleashing a terrifying arm swing, aiming to crush Ichijo. But Ichijo countered with an axe dance, a red streak flashing through the air. With his extensive combat experience, Ichijo narrowly dodged the attack and landed with professional precision. He gritted his teeth. The dodge just now was not as easy as it looked. Ichijo clutched his stomach, panting, bitterly admitting, "This guy's reflexes are incredibly fast. I missed my chance to take him down." Gashin also realized its opponent was no pushover. It knew well that with Ichijo's current strength, attacking its reinforced arm would merely be a tickle. Ichijo stood up straight, sweat pouring down, admitting the situation was tougher than he had imagined. He glanced down at the floor below, and suddenly froze, as if he had discovered something. A blue energy gate was glowing beneath the chair, and Ichijo immediately recognized it. Safe house? It's right on the first floor. Behind him, a bloated zombie was furiously charging, and Ichijo decided he had to reach his target immediately. His eyes gleamed with extreme surprise at the scene that unfolded right after. Bang! The bloated zombie that had just charged close was hurled back like a ball by an invisible force field. Ichijo breathed a sigh of relief, standing on the balcony and looking down at the battlefield that had been unexpectedly cleared. Standing amidst the dust and smoke, a voice from somewhere asked if he had fallen. Ichijo flinched. Gashin's colossal hand had reached up from below. The battle was not over yet. Ichijo ran up the stairs, muttering curses at the leech-like boss Gashin, who was sprawled below, but still refused to die completely. No sooner had he escaped the boss than he ran straight into another horde of zombies lurking ahead, howling deafeningly. The entire horde of zombies, with their bloodshot eyes, roared wildly, charging simultaneously towards Ichijo as if sensing delicious prey. Without a hint of hesitation, Ichijo brushed aside the arm of the first charging zombie, deeming this small fry horde not worth his time. In a flash, he used the zombie itself as a pivot, then swung his axe, delivering a swift blow to its back. Instead of discarding the corpse, Ichijo grabbed the fallen zombie, turning it into a living shield to fend off the remaining ones. With a powerful shove, he hurled the shield directly at two charging zombies, creating a forceful impact. All three zombies staggered, scattering backward like bowling pins. Taking advantage of the horde still tumbling into each other, Ichijo had enough space to deliver a finishing blow. Giving them no chance to recover, Ichijo unleashed a thunderous kick, striking directly into the chaotic mass of zombies. With a cold expression, Ichijo tightened his grip on the axe handle, growling a command for the undead horde to stay down. A horizontal axe swing, full of speed and power, decapitated everything still standing within his reach. After clearing out the small fries, a rolling zombie head landed right at Gashin's feet, the boss who had just clumsily crawled up from under the stairs. The boss snatched Ichijo's axe and hurled it back with terrifying force. The axe flew like a cannonball, embedding itself into the ground and creating a small explosion that shattered the tiled floor. Gashin fumed, its face contorted with murderous intent. It was clear it had realized its recent prey was no ordinary opponent. The boss looked down at the first floor, where Ichijo had safely landed, its eyes filled with bitter resentment. Gashin's crimson eyes bulged, and it gnashed its teeth, its rage reaching its peak. Inside the safe house was an old bus. Ichijo opened the supply crate, and only found a few rolls of bandages and a new axe. Ichijo bandaged his wounds, muttering that these paltry items were not enough to complete the mission. Sitting slumped in the bus, he knew this was the most crucial step, the beginning of his revenge, and he could not afford to make a mistake. He decided he had to escape to the safe house immediately, as far away from Gashin as possible. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed, startling Ichijo, who realized he had been discovered. Outside, Gashin furiously pounded on the side of the bus, determined not to let its prey escape. The monster tensed its body, using terrifying strength to try and flip the entire bus over. Ichijo looked through the window, his face paling as he saw the situation was becoming extremely dire. He spun around, realizing this place was no longer safe. He had to find a way to escape immediately. The bus rattled violently under the mutated monster's power. Crash! The bus window shattered into countless pieces. Gashin's bulging, muscular arm smashed through the glass, reaching directly for Ichijo. In that very moment, Ichijo's eyes flashed with a sharp glint. This was his chance. Without a second's hesitation, he swung his axe, aiming directly for the old wound on Gashin's arm. He pushed off with his hands, springing backward to maintain distance and reassess the situation, forced to slowly wear down its fighting strength. But the axe in his hand had also reached its limit. It wouldn't last much longer. Gashin roared in pain, its arm severely wounded. Ichijo knew well that mutated zombies, when close to death, would enter a berserk state, their aggression doubling. This monster could now only use one arm. A fatal weakness had been exposed, and if he could disable its other arm as well, this game would be decided. Ichijo plunged his axe straight into Gashin's remaining arm. The monster was stunned by the sudden attack. He used all his strength to drive the axe blade deeper, determined to disable the boss's other arm. But Gashin was no small fry. It unleashed a devastating kick directly into Ichijo's chest. Kicked away, Ichijo fell, sprawling, and the monster immediately stomped on his hand and axe. Ichijo lay flattened on the floor, bitterly realizing that his previous slash was nothing compared to the boss's brute strength. He tried to reach out, but his entire body was paralyzed, leaving him only to watch helplessly as the monster approached. Cornered, Ichijo thought bitterly, "Damn it. If I get bitten, it'll be no different from my previous life, a life as a zombie." In despair, he wondered why he had to go through this hell once more. A mysterious voice echoed in his head, urging him to rise, to seek revenge. Ichijo was stunned to realize that the wounds on his body were automatically healing. A surge of crimson energy enveloped his arm, healing at an unbelievable speed. Gashin roared madly, perhaps sensing the unusual change. The monster lunged, unleashing an earth-shattering punch, but Ichijo managed to roll and dodge in time. Ichijo sprang up, looking at his completely healed body with astonishment. He stood up, his entire body unbelievably healed, and wondered, attacked by the zombie virus without transforming, yet fully recovered? He looked at his bandaged hand, feeling a strange power flowing from within, connected to that mysterious voice. Ichijo realized the voice was very familiar. It seemed to have always existed within him. He suddenly froze as a crazy hypothesis flashed through his mind. The monster Gashin roared, its bloodshot eyes flashing with a spark of recognition. "I remember now." Ichijo dodged Gashin's devastating punch and counterattacked with a kick straight to its bloody arm. He was stunned, realizing the mysterious voice in his head belonged to Tile, the level 100 zombie he had faced in his previous life. Faint memories resurfaced. The image of the female zombie Tile appeared. At that time, Ichijo's mind was filled only with rage and the goal of the safe house. In a flashback, Ichijo in his previous life faced Tile just before being defeated, amidst a collapsing domain. Normally, both should have turned into zombies in the real world, but for some reason, Ichijo was regressed. A crazy thought flashed through Ichijo's mind, his eyes wide with horror. "No way. Is she with me?" He looked at the monster Gashin before him, still unable to believe that hypothesis. In this world? Absurd. But the truth was undeniable. Ichijo gripped the axe handle and accepted the only truth. She is inside me. She merged with me before the domain disappeared. Ichijo swung his axe, realizing everything. Virus immunity, zombie regeneration ability, all thanks to Tile. He gritted his teeth, questioning himself with a bitter thought. So, am I still considered human now? Disregarding philosophy, Ichijo used his bare hands to block Gashin's hammer-like punch. Practical combat was paramount. The monster Gashin was stopped, clearly showing its astonishment at Ichijo's new power. Ichijo stared coldly at the monster, bitterly admitting he was surviving thanks to the power of his sworn enemy. He disregarded his new identity, his sharp eyes asserting, "But if it's for revenge, I don't give a damn." Ichijo roared, fully unleashing and accepting the dark power. "I will give you this body." A crimson energy core burst from his fist. Boom! Zombie power exploded. Crimson muscle fibers shot out from Ichijo's body, blowing Gashin away. Standing amidst the crimson killing intent, Ichijo realized that with zombie power, his revenge plan would accelerate even further. His eyes blazed, swearing vengeance on those who betrayed him. "Hope, and the other 4 of you, just wait." Gashin, the level 10 monster, was now just a mangled corpse lying at Ichijo's feet. Ichijo exhaled sharply, his face smeared with blood, but his eyes remained cold, his hand gripping the axe. Amidst a battlefield littered with zombie corpses, he finally reached the safe house, the reward after clearing the area. A verdant aura from the teleportation gate enveloped Ichijo, preparing to transport him into the safe zone. Whoosh! He was teleported inside, his body enveloped by pure energy. Ichijo immediately recognized it. This was the familiar level 1 safe house from his previous life, and before him was the loot chest. He confirmed, "It seems this area is real, and this is reality." Snap. Ichijo didn't hesitate, flipping open the lid of the loot chest. He picked up a beginner magic stone, his sharp eyes confirming it was definitely genuine. Fully opening the chest, he smirked. This time, the reward was much better, 5 times greater than in his previous life. Ichijo calculated. The area appeared earlier than expected, but can the items be used like in my previous life? A level 1 inventory. 5 beginner magic stones should be enough to reach level 3. He shouted, "Open inventory." A virtual screen appeared, and he began the upgrade process. The system announced, "Consume 2 magic stones to reach level 2. Consume 3 magic stones to reach level 3. The inventory screen appeared, upgraded and expanded with 5 additional slots. Upon completion, the system announced, "Leaving area," teleporting Ichijo back to the real world. Ichijo stood on the rooftop, muttering, "Just as expected, magic stones can be used. The next few months will be crucial." He realized that not only the loot but also the bonus stats gained from clearing the area were 5 times greater. And he had one more thing to confirm. In his hand was a special crystal containing the zombie virus, which could be used to craft various medicines. While deep in thought, he suddenly heard a girl's scream. "Let me go, you pervert." His gaze immediately shifted. Ichijo held the virus-containing crystal in his hand, his sharp eyes calculating his next move. He smirked, a confident smile of one who held the future in his palm. In the middle of the street, a pervert was harassing a young girl, muttering sick words, while Ichijo quietly approached from behind. Wham! Without a word, Ichijo delivered a punch straight to the pervert's face, leaving him dazed. The man furiously yelled, "Hey you, watch where you're going." But Ichijo merely walked past coldly, treating him as if he were invisible. The pervert scurried away, while the rescued girl only managed to call out once before also leaving. The pervert slunk away alone, grumbling resentfully. "How boring, maybe I should go for another drink." He stepped into a dark alley, still complaining about the bland taste of the alcohol. A moment later, the alley was cordoned off by the police, and a curious crowd gathered, discussing a corpse in an unusual state. Police car lights flashed. Another patrol car just arrived at the scene. 2 experts, a man and a woman in white lab coats, approached with serious expressions, the man grumbling about being called to work so early in the morning. A police officer greeted the man named Kurozono, reporting that this was the first time they had encountered such a scene, and was ordered to lead the way to view the corpse. The young female expert followed behind, her face clearly showing shock upon seeing the corpse. The victim was the pervert from earlier, now dead in a slumped sitting position, his skin purplish, his body bloated with strange wounds. Another female scientist, with blonde hair, concluded to the police that this was merely a case of alcohol poisoning, and they could close the file as an accident. However, when no one was paying attention, her eyes became extremely tense, clearly hiding a terrible truth. A close-up of the corpse's hand showed it twitching slightly, while a faint red energy began to gather. The female investigator Natsume Etsuoka secretly hid a small piece of evidence in her hand, but Kurozono called her away when the work seemed to be finished. Natsume tried to argue that this wasn't normal blood, but Kurozono brushed her off. "I said it's done, determined to bury the truth. Kurozono growled at Natsume, warning her that she was just a rookie, not to be arrogant just because she studied abroad, and that she had to follow his orders. He asserted his authority, pushed the curious crowd aside, and yelled loudly, "Get out of the way!" Natsume still couldn't believe the hasty conclusion, but Kurozono coldly replied, "That's a different matter." Natsume mumbled about the witness's testimony, that there was a minor altercation between the victim and a student, her gaze inadvertently meeting Ichijo, who was lurking in the crowd. Ichijo merely smirked, indicating that everything was part of his plan. He thought to himself, his purpose in coming here was to confirm whether the zombie virus would turn people into the undead before the apocalypse, and it seemed he had his answer. The pervert's corpse remained just a corpse, proving that there would be no transformation into a zombie until the official start of the end of days. And his second important goal was to recruit that genius female scientist to his side. A line of text appeared, introducing her identity, the genius Natsume Etsuoka. In Ichijo's flashback, in her previous life, Natsume was an exceptional pharmacist, creating powerful enhancement drugs from energy stones, but her insatiable curiosity ultimately led to her death. Ichijo's resolve was firm. In this life, I will definitely make her my comrade to obtain those drugs. Back in the present, annoyed by Kurozono's arrogant attitude, Natsume decided to investigate the case herself. No sooner had she finished speaking than a voice echoed right behind her. "Hello." Natsume startled and turned around, facing Ichijo and asking directly, "Who are you?" Ichijo confidently replied with a half smile, "I am the student you're looking for." Ichijo suggested, Can we talk somewhere else? And the scene shifted to a modern high-rise building. In another room, Hatano was nervously puffing on a cigarette, his face contorted. Hatano irritably asked Mineta why he rented a place like this, and then rushed to clean it up. Mineta could only reply that a school friend had called him here. Ichijo and Natsume stepped out of the elevator on the 15th floor. Hatano asked about the work's progress and wondered how Ichijo knew this place. He simply replied, "Just rumors." The red-haired Mineta, his face still swollen, froze for 5 seconds upon seeing Natsume Etsuoka, muttering, "Damn, she's hot." Natsume was overwhelmed by the luxurious laboratory, never expecting such a place to exist. Ichijo casually told her that the cleanup was done, and she could test the equipment herself. Ichijo thought to himself, this was the very laboratory she had used in his previous life after the apocalypse, a place long abandoned. Ichijo turned to tell Hatano to wait outside, because he needed to speak privately with the girl, leaving the gang boss bewildered. Hatano Toshiki watched them, his mind reeling, unable to guess what Ichijo was planning, even suspecting it was a sophisticated honey trap. Natsume was still engrossed with the machinery when Ichijo cut her off, saying they should get straight to the main topic. Ichijo casually put his hands in his pockets, preparing to play his trump card. He pulled out a sparkling azure energy stone and declared bluntly, "He died because of this." Natsume Etsuoka's eyes widened and her mouth dropped open, stammering, "What in the world is this?" Driven by her scientific instinct, she reached for the stone to examine it, but Ichijo raised his hand high, coldly stating, "Not yet." Natsume angrily shouted, warning him not to touch important evidence with bare hands, declaring that she would definitely analyze its structure. Regaining her composure, Natsume questioned Ichijo why he told her and brought her here, certain that he had some ulterior motive. Ichijo's amber eyes gleamed with absolute confidence. Ichijo extended his hand as an offer. "As expected, you are very intelligent. I need your help to analyze this stone." Natsume hesitated, suggesting that Kurozono was the suitable person, not a mere intern like herself, even as her hand already held the stone placed in a petri dish. Ichijo began to show off, rattling off Natsume's profile. A medical genius, studied abroad since middle school, won numerous awards, and just returned to the country as an intern. Natsume realized this guy had thoroughly investigated her, not just sought her out randomly. She got straight to the point. "So, what do I have to do?" Ichijo confirmed. "Of course." Ichijo got straight to the point, his eyes sharp. "From now on, this is top secret. Before I speak, I need to confirm if you want to become our comrade." He laid out an enticing offer. Join and get full access to the lab, unlimited energy stones, all research costs covered, and you will see a completely different world. Refuse, and it's game over. The conversation ends. With that, he pulled out a chair, a powerful gesture of invitation. Without wasting a second, Natsume immediately placed the energy stone under the microscope to begin her work. She made a blunt offer. "If you give me this stone, I'll accept any conditions." Ichijo smirked. "Don't worry about that." Ichijo merely smiled faintly. Everything was within the calculations of a regressor. Natsume was completely captivated by the strange crystal structure. She mumbled, "Just as I thought." Ichijo began to explain the rules of the game. The stone contains a virus that creates the undead, also known as zombies, and the corpse from the other day was a defective product. He revealed the ultimate goal. The stone has 2 components, one for mutation, one for enhancement. Her task is to separate them to create buffing drugs with almost absolute purity. Natsume was heavily shocked to hear that the corpse would move. Ichijo coldly confirmed, "Yes, sooner or later." Ichijo cut off all questions, assigned the task, and promised to tell her everything later. He had already prepared an apartment on the floor below for her to dedicate herself entirely to her work. Before leaving, Natsume called out, asking for his name. He turned back and dropped a concise reply, "I am Shinya Ichijo." Ichijo ordered Mineta to stay and assist Natsume, then left the laboratory with Hatano. In the elevator, Hatano was still bewildered by his new boss's plan. While Ichijo had already finished his calculations, Hatano wondered where they were going next, completely clueless about the upcoming steps. Shinya Ichijo inquired about Hiraguri's situation, confirmed his subordinates had submitted, then dismissed Hatano's cheesy way of calling him boss. As the elevator doors opened, Shinya Ichijo declared firmly with sharp, cold eyes, "All that's left is money." He turned to Hatano and ordered, "Hatano, get ready. We're about to meet a shark." An old boss, puffing cigar smoke, appeared, introducing the formidable Ren Ogane, a man whose hands were stained with blood since he was 20, stopping at nothing to climb to the peak of power. Using the most brutal methods, he seized his current position, the kingpin of the entertainment industry. His main business territories were casinos and nightclubs, illegal money-printing machines. Ren Ogane's casino was always packed, raking in enormous sums of money daily from desperate gamblers trying to change their lives. A gambler was fervently praying before a slot machine, hoping for a ticket to change their life. But in this place, winners were few, while those who lost everything and left with resentment were many. And in the back, the price of defeat was paid with a golf ball flying straight into a debtor's face. The ball bounced wildly on the wooden floor after the devastating impact. The shirtless debtor, bruised all over, knelt and begged Ren Ogane's henchman. His face contorted with fear, he stammered, asking for a few more days to repay the debt. Ren Ogane, casually swinging his golf club, declared, "Do you know the total debt? It's 10 million yen. Pay it all, then you can leave." The debtor was so scared he wet his pants as Ogane eyed where to strike next. He screamed that he only borrowed 2 million, but was bluntly reminded of the exorbitant interest rate clearly stated in the loan agreement. Ogane's eyes narrowed maliciously as he launched a psychological attack. "If you can't pay, your family will have to. Your daughter just started kindergarten, didn't she?" Enraged by the threat to his family, the debtor roared that he wouldn't forgive him, but Ogane had already swung his club. Wham! The golf ball flew straight into the man's groin with a sickening thud. A bodyguard in dark glasses, with an impassive face, stood silently, even as blood splattered onto his collar. Ogane ordered his subordinate, as usual, cut off a pinky finger and send it to his family. Report the debt as 16 million yen for his ransom. That was Ren Ogane's way of doing business, a man who built a multi-billion yen empire on the blood and bones of the fallen. A subordinate entered, announcing Hatano and his men had arrived. Ogane waved his hand, ordering them in. Hatano's men were stopped, but Hatano growled a warning, "Don't interfere." Ren Ogane gestured for his bodyguards to step back, his demeanor full of authority. Watching the bloody debtor being dragged away, Hatano sneered, "You're as cruel as ever." Ogane replied emotionlessly, "Not as much as you." Ren Ogane exhaled cigar smoke, his sharp eyes fixed on Hatano. "I hear you've taken over Hiraguri's territory. Now tell me, what do you want?" Hatano, with 2 trusted subordinates, stood opposite him and began, "It's the boss' birthday soon. I thought I should do something for him." The old fox Ogane offered a dirty deal. "I can help you score points with the boss, but in return, hand over your territory and Hiraguri's." Hatano gritted his teeth, sneering contemptuously. "Give away the territory I risked my life to seize? You damn old man." Ogane smirked, uttering a sarcastic remark. "What a fool." The boss' eyes gleamed with deadly greed. As he admitted, "I've had my eye on your territory for a long time." Hatano and his men were surrounded by Ogane's bodyguards, but Ogane still feigned surprise. "I can't believe you came here so easily with just 3 people. Are you looking down on me?" In a flashback, the masked subordinate looked panicked upon hearing the plan. "Only 3 people? The casino security has hundreds. This is suicide." But Shinya Ichijo reassured him, "Just follow my instructions." Shinya Ichijo, with an absolutely confident expression, explained the strategy. "No all-out brawl. We'll minimize casualties. Just create chaos at other entrances to buy time, and remember to always be firm when discussing money." Back in the present, Hatano recalled boss Shinya Ichijo's instructions, his voice hesitant, but his eyes determined. I understand." He gritted his teeth, roaring in his mind, "Damn it, I'll do it." Hatano snatched a pencil from the table, his eyes blazing, and roared, "Attack this pathetic old man for me." Hatano lunged like a beast, swinging the pencil straight at Ogane, but the dark-skinned bodyguard reacted in time. Whoosh. The pencil was stopped by the bodyguard's iron-hard hand right in front of Ogane, stunning Hatano. The bodyguard gripped Hatano's wrist tightly, his eyes as sharp as knives. The dark-skinned bodyguard used his bare hand to stop the sharp pencil tip, perfectly protecting the boss. Another of Ogane's bodyguards roared, ordering his comrades, "What are you standing around for? Kill them all." Immediately, Hatano's blue-haired subordinate struck first, unleashing a devastating hook punch to a bodyguard's face. Wham! The unfortunate bodyguard flew backward like a ball, to the astonishment of the others, while the masked subordinate watched in admiration. One of Ogane's bodyguards roared, "You bastard!" then charged to attack. Hatano's blue-haired subordinate casually blocked the punch, growling, "Your opponent is me." The blue-haired man continued to dominate, punching and kicking the bodyguard, roaring, "I've been itching to get my hands on you for a long time. Let me vent my anger on you." Hatano watched, muttering to himself to stay calm. Suddenly, Hatano flinched as he sensed danger. Whoosh! A golf club slammed down right next to Hatano, shattering the table. The masked subordinate stood in front of Hatano, reminding him not to be careless, then said, "Let me handle this one." Step back. He warned that the dark-skinned bodyguard was Ren Ogan's most formidable asset, the reason the old man was so confident. The dark-skinned bodyguard ripped off his vest, grabbed the golf club, and lunged forward to attack. He swung the club, bringing down a devastating blow on the masked subordinate, who was falling to the floor. The masked subordinate glanced up, staring intently at the incoming club. Thud. The club was stopped by a single hand. The masked subordinate had effortlessly parried the full-force attack. The dark-skinned bodyguard was stunned to see his attack blocked so easily. The mask slowly fell, revealing the subordinate's true face. The dark-skinned bodyguard froze, muttering in confusion. "Unharmed? Did I miss?" Hatano asked with concern, but Ichijo merely gave a cold, Ichijo stood up straight, holding the golf club, his face devoid of emotion. He glanced at the bodyguard, uttering a dismissive remark. Compared to yesterday's enemy, this guy is much slower. Ren Ogain ordered the dark-skinned bodyguard, a murderous glint flashing in his eyes. "Kill them all." Clang! The golf club and steel pipe segment clashed, sparks flying, their power incredibly evenly matched. Shinya Ichijo spun to build momentum, his pivot foot firm as a rock. Ichijo used the steel pipe segment itself to parry the golf club, completely unbalancing the dark-skinned bodyguard. Ichijo's golden eyes flashed, cold and devoid of emotion. Seizing the opening, Ichijo unleashed an extremely fast and vicious roundhouse kick. The dark-skinned bodyguard was stunned, unable to believe the kick's speed. That leg. He roared in anger, intending to swing his club and smash that troublesome leg. "I'll chop it off." But it was too late. Ichiju's heel had already connected firmly with the bodyguard's nape. The force of the kick was terrifying. The burly bodyguard was sent flying like a ragdoll. Thwack! With a single, devastating kick, Ichijo sent the bodyguard flying straight into the wall. Ren Ogane, sitting far away, gaped, unable to believe his eyes as he watched his ace be defeated. Ichijo stood upright, holding the broken pipe segment, his knife-sharp gaze sweeping towards the old boss, making Ogane stammer, "Impossible. Absurd." The old boss began to sweat coldly, grabbing his phone and yelling, "Hey, haven't the reinforcements arrived yet?" The door burst open, and Hatano Toshiki and his aggressive subordinates stepped in, declaring, "Boss, sorry to have kept you waiting." Ren Ogane was furious, roaring, "Why are there so few people?" One of Ogane's subordinates reported breathlessly, "All roads leading to the casino are inexplicably blocked. Reinforcements cannot arrive immediately." The boss turned to Ichijo, his voice trembling. "What the hell is going on? Was it you who did this?" Ichijo calmly replied, "Yes. Quite unfortunate, isn't it?" Ogan lost all composure, yelling at his remaining subordinates. "What are you talking about? These small fries don't need many men. I'll give you 2 million, kill them all for me." Receiving the order, Ogane's remaining henchmen roared and charged towards Ichijo and Hatano. At the same time, outside the casino, the crowd of gamblers was in extreme panic, screaming loudly, "What the hell is this? It's 7/7. 7/7 is here." Crash! A body flew straight through the casino, slamming into the glass door to everyone's astonishment. Old boss Ren Ogane scrambled to his feet, not understanding what was happening, while the gamblers whispered, "Isn't he the owner here?" The boss looked up, seeing Shinya Ichijo, Hatano Toshiki, and the muscular blue-haired man standing tall like three gods. Hatano glanced at the elite bodyguard sprawled across the floor, his heart shaken. He alone wiped out all of them? Hatano quickly regained his composure, stepping forward to reassure the crowd. "It's nothing, just a small disturbance." Hatano declared loudly, "From today, I am the new owner here. My name is Hatano Toshiki. To celebrate, everyone will receive 10,000 chips, so go wild." The gamblers immediately cheered loudly, forgetting the recent chaos, praising their generous new boss. Hatano glanced at Ichijo, thinking to himself, "That's quite extravagant, but I still don't understand why he let me take the spotlight like this." Suddenly, a crowd recognized the person who had just entered the casino. "It's Ijuin. Why is he here?" Hatano faced Ijuin Nozomi, the newcomer speaking first. "I heard there was trouble in the VIP room, so I came to check. Mr. Ogane is my friend, so what is this mess?" Ichijo paid no attention, turning his back and walking away, while Ijuin suggested, "From now on, we can be friends." Hatano quickly placed a hand on Ichiju's shoulder, growling, "Hey, wait a minute. That attitude won't do, will it?" Ichijo's golden eyes flashed with a deadly killing intent. Hatano instantly stiffened, cold sweat pouring out, realizing he had just done something incredibly foolish. The terrifying killing intent emanating from Ichijo silenced Hatano, with only one thought in his head. This killing intent is terrifying as hell. Ijuin looked down at Ichijo, his voice condescending. You still look like a student, don't you? Can I help you with something? Ichijo recognized all of Ijuin's henchmen. Minagawa, Ishizaki, Rick, and Iraman were precisely the ones who had betrayed and killed him in his previous life. Boss Ogan crawled over, his voice trembling as he pleaded. Hope. No, Ijun-kun, save me. He clutched Ijuin's leg, desperately yelling, I'll pay whatever you want. Ijuin smiled meaningfully, bending down to look at the pathetic old man. Of course. Ijuin Nozomi coldly declared that he had settled the long-standing debt with old boss Ogane, a golf club covered in blood, proof that the debt collection had just been extremely violent. The bodyguard Minagawa stood behind him. Ijuin uttered a concise remark. It doesn't matter. Shinya Ichijo and Ijuin Nozomi faced each other, the atmosphere as tense as a drawn bowstring. Ichijo grabbed Ijuin's collar, growling a warning. If there weren't so many others I needed to kill, you'd be gone already. Your life is temporarily spared. Ijuin looked bored, turning his back and walking away. How boring. Let's go. Called back abruptly, Ijuin's face darkened with annoyance. Ichijo shouldered the golf club, uttering a challenge to the traitors from his previous life. We will meet again. Ijuin gritted his teeth and ordered Minagawa. Investigate that brat for me. Hatano Toshiki stepped forward to reassure the gamblers, announcing that he would soon distribute the promised bonuses. Ichijo thought to himself about Ijuin's group, his eyes burning with hatred. I won't let you die so easily. I'll drag you down to the depths of despair. Hatano anxiously rushed over to warn him. Boss, making an enemy of Ijuin now is very dangerous, his influence. Ichijo waved him off, getting straight to the point. I know. More importantly, what's the casino's revenue today? He ordered decisively while adjusting his clothes. Use all that money to buy gold. Transact on the spot. Hatano was bewildered, unable to comprehend his new boss's plan. Money? What for? Ichijo coldly replied, It's none of your business. Just buy it, regardless of the price, then deliver it to the laboratory. Ichijo's system panel appeared, explaining that upgrading the inventory after level 10 required an enormous amount of gold, a resource that would become extremely scarce after the apocalypse. Suddenly, Ichijo was startled, his senses detecting something unusual. He sharpened all his senses, realizing immediately. This reaction is from a special zone. Where is it? Ichijo's gaze locked onto a crimson energy surge emanating from a distant building. Over there. Shinya Ichijo stepped into the school. The sky stained a strange red, signaling an ominous sign, and he muttered, Is this a school? The schoolyard still looked normal, students bustling about as if nothing had happened. In the classroom, a group of students was gathered, among them a blonde-haired guy acting like a boss. A chubby, moss-green-haired boy wearing glasses stood alone by an empty desk. The chubby boy looked worried, secretly wondering if Ichijo was all right. He was about to place a stack of books on Ichijo's desk when he was stopped. The blonde bully spoke up. That's Ichijo's spot. While the chubby boy thought Ichijo wouldn't come, the blonde guy sneered. Certain. He was dragged away by Mineta. He's probably in the hospital now. He casually took Ichijo's spot, complaining about losing a convenient errand boy. With that, he unceremoniously threw Ichijo's stack of books flying out the window, to the astonishment of the entire class. Just then, Ichijo appeared at the door, his eyes sharp as daggers, and he uttered coldly, Get out before I lay a hand on you. The blonde guy was about to lose his temper, but was held back by his friend, who whispered in his ear, Stop it. He even beat Mineta. The whole class began to murmur, unable to believe that Ichijo, after being dragged away, could still return unharmed. Ichijo approached the chubby boy and asked mockingly, Is my return good news or bad news? Which made the boy flustered as he replied that he was very happy Ichijo had taught Mineta a lesson. The scene shifted to the previous night. Ichijo stood in the silent schoolyard, contemplating the unformed special zone and predicting it would appear tomorrow. Back in the present, a female voice called Ichijo's name, making him turn to look. Amane Miki, the class goddess, approached with a feigned, worried expression, asking if Ichijo was all right. Miki's true thoughts were revealed. She was merely annoyed that she didn't have an errand boy to buy her breakfast and intended to order Ichijo to get it immediately. Miki thought to herself, I thought you wouldn't come back. I was just about to find a new errand boy, Ichijo retorted without a hint of deference. Go buy it yourself, you eyesore, leaving Miki stunned, unable to believe her ears. The cronies began to speak up in defense of the goddess Amane Miki, the blonde guy straining his neck. "You bastard Ichijo. How dare you talk to Miki like that?" Miki hypocritically tried to intervene, but the blonde guy was still fired up, yelling that Ichijo was looking down on them. Ichijo merely closed his eyes to rest, annoyed at not being left in peace, while Miki flashed a sinister smile, gloating that a good show was about to begin. The blonde guy lost his patience, raising his hand to slap Ichijo. "Get out of here. Don't think beating Mineta makes you tough." Bang! Before he could even touch him, the blonde head of the small fry was grabbed by Ichijo and slammed mercilessly onto the desk. Just then, Mineta walked into the classroom, astonished to see Ichijo perfectly fine while the loudmouth was already knocked out. Miki immediately ran over to Tattle, trying to incite Mineta to avenge her. "You're here for revenge, aren't you? Perfect, teach him a lesson." Mineta shoved Miki's hand away, a clear look of annoyance on his face. Mineta growled, making Miki flinch. "Didn't the boss tell you to get lost already?" The whole class fell silent, students gaping in disbelief. "Boss? Since when?" Mineta yelled directly at Miki and the blonde guy who was scrambling to get up. "Hurry up and get out." After cleaning up, Mineta turned to ask Ichijo about breakfast, then ordered his bookworm friend to buy food for him. Mineta reported to Ichijo that Etsuoka had tried to call him last night, but couldn't get through, so he had to come to school to check. He leaned close to Ichijo's ear, intending to report Etsuoka's amazing discovery, but Ichijo merely ordered coldly, "I know, go back to your seat." The class bell rang, the teacher walked in and began the lecture, and Ichijo thought to himself, "This peaceful life is about to end." Ichijo looked out the window, his reflection appearing pensive, ready for what was about to come. Suddenly, Ichijo's eyes widened, and the scene outside the hallway abruptly turned a bloody red. A system notification appeared right before him. Entering Special Zone. Level 5. Mission. Reach the safe house within 20 minutes. Ichijo felt the familiar sensation of being teleported, something he had taken a while to get used to in his previous life. Standing in the now desolate and blood-stained classroom, Ichijo calmly searched for weapons, picking up a ruler and a set square, remarking, "No recovery items. This zone is harder than last time." Shinya Ichijo stood before the blood-stained door, his mind ready for the race against time. "All right, let's go." The first thing was to locate the safe house, and with his past life's experience, this was his home turf. The biggest advantage in this special zone was that he knew the map by heart, which helped minimize the time spent fumbling around. Ichijo followed the long corridor, heading straight for what he guessed was the objective. He glanced through the window, stopping short at an unexpected sight. What the hell? The safe house was right in the gym, a position exposed to the enemy. And as expected, a horde of zombies of all types, from muscular ones to those in sportswear, were lurking, guarding the objective. Ichijo frowned, knowing that rushing straight in would only lead to certain death. He smirked, well aware there was no way to wipe out this horde in 20 minutes. Suddenly, a guardian zombie lunged down from the ceiling, intending to ambush him from behind. But Ichijo's skill was not to be trifled with. He narrowly dodged as the monster smashed through the glass door and charged in. Without a moment's hesitation, Ichijo used his strength to push the bloated zombie head over heels down the stairs below. Down in the yard, the entire sluggish zombie horde suddenly startled, all turning their heads in one direction. The monsters growled, their glowing red eyes simultaneously focusing on the source of the sound. Looking down from above, Ichijo realized something was amiss. Why are they suddenly moving? The zombies swarmed around the corpse of their fallen comrade, clearly attracted by the sound. Ichijo immediately had an idea. I see. If I can lure them away from the safe house, then completing the mission within 20 minutes is entirely within reach. His gaze quickly swept and stopped at the secluded stairwell, the only place enclosed enough to create a sufficiently loud noise. The plan was clear. He just needed to reach that spot to herd the entire zombie horde elsewhere. Target locked. The broadcasting room, its door splattered with blood. Inside the empty room, Ichijo mused. Just one push, and I can herd the entire horde out of the safe house. Clutching his ruler, Ichijo headed straight for the broadcasting room. The hallway stained crimson. Standing before the window, he wondered if he still remembered the layout of this dilapidated school. His regressor's mind sprang into action, a 3D map appearing in Ichijo's head, clearly outlining the route from the central area to Building 4. The plan was clear. Pass through the connecting corridor, go straight to the rooftop of the opposite building, and he would be there. As he moved, Ichijo paused, realizing the muscular zombies below were starting to shuffle off somewhere again. From above, he watched the entire horde of zombies slowly return to their original positions, surrounding the glowing green teleportation gate. Ichijo smirked, a hypothesis flashing through his mind. Are they guarding the safe house? Or is it just a coincidence? He narrowed his eyes, his tactical brain beginning to analyze the monster's behavior. A zombie in a suit lumbered forward, and Ichijo decided to use it as a test subject. Let's test it out on this one. With a whoosh, the suited zombie flew straight through the glass window, free falling from a high floor. Immediately, the entire horde of zombies in the yard simultaneously froze, attracted by the sound. The zombies swarmed like ants around the fallen corpse, confirming Ichijo's hypothesis was entirely accurate. Standing by the broken window, he affirmed, "These creatures are extremely sensitive to sound. They'll chase after any noise immediately." Ichijo assessed the burly zombies in sportswear. The most muscular ones in the horde are elite zombies. He recalled, these were physical education students whose physical strength was already formidable, so when they transformed, they were stronger than regular zombies, though not yet mutated. After checking the source of the sound, the entire horde of zombies slowly shuffled back to their guard positions around the safe house. Having understood the rules, Ichijo walked with a determined expression, his hand gripping his makeshift weapon tightly. Looking at the dark hallway ahead, he knew he had only one chance to succeed. In the blood-soaked hallway, Ichijo told himself, no mistakes allowed. The plan was clear. The decisive moment was when he moved to the broadcasting room. A burly zombie wearing an apron, clutching a shovel, lumbered out of a room. It shuffled along the hallway, bloodstains splattered everywhere, proving it was no ordinary grunt. The zombie turned, its bloodshot eyes sweeping across the doorway, searching for prey. Hidden in the shadows, only Ichijo's glowing eyes were waiting for the opportune moment. Suddenly, Ichijo lunged out, swinging his ruler straight for the zombie's nape. Caught by surprise, the guardian zombie collapsed, its shadow cast long upon the door. Ichijo calculated the time. Only 1 minute left. Whereas normally it would take at least 5 minutes to reach the broadcasting room unimpeded. He clearly assessed the situation. Speed and tactics were the key to winning this race. Ichijo had reached the connecting corridor, a crucial stage in his plan. The door at the end of the connecting corridor, splattered with blood, was the next target. Ichijo cautiously pushed the door open slightly and peered inside, scouting the situation within. He spotted 3 regular zombies loitering in the hallway, an open area with no cover. Taking a detour would waste time. Ichijo had no other choice but to break through directly. He decided to act swiftly and cleanly to avoid making loud noises and alerting the zombies in the main building. Dealt with in an instant. Ichijo lunged like a phantom, swinging his newly acquired weapon straight at the nearest zombie's face. With a single blow, the shovel smashed half of the zombie's face, blood splattering everywhere. After clearing out the small fry, Ichijo stood in the middle of the hallway, gripping the shovel firmly, and muttered, "It seems building 4 will be even tougher." He looked ahead. The stairs leading to the broadcasting room were right at the end of the hallway. Ichijo cautiously opened the door, checking the map before engaging in combat. The long, dark hallway stretched out, not a single zombie in sight, but a pro player's intuition told him something was amiss. He frowned, realizing there was no time to formulate a perfect plan. He'd have to improvise then. No sooner had Ichijo finished speaking than a colossal shadow with glowing red eyes loomed behind the door. Ambushed unexpectedly, Ichijo flinched as the muscular shadow raised its arm. He gritted his teeth, his reflexes immediately raising the shovel to block the blow. Crash! A devastating punch slammed straight into the shovel, with such force that Ichijo was sent flying. Blood spurted from Ichijo's mouth, the shovel plunging into the floor, stopping his fall. He looked up, shocked to see a heavily muscled zombie in boxer shorts. An elite zombie hiding behind a weakling? The loud noise had alerted the entire area. The reflection on the shovel's blade showed zombies closing in. Ichijo cursed. Now he was surrounded by the mutated zombie, and a horde of small fry shuffling towards him. The regular zombies growled, their bloodshot eyes rushing towards their sole prey. It was do or die now. Ichijo gripped the shovel handle tightly, assuming a stance ready for battle. He muttered, "Shh, did something just touch me?" A zombie lunged forward, and Ichijo, quick as a flash, thrust the shovel handle straight into its mouth. He used that very zombie as a weapon, spinning around to smash its head into another charging zombie. While Ichijo was clearing out the small fry, the boxer zombie suddenly appeared right beside him. The mutated zombie flexed its muscles, swinging a destructive hook punch aimed straight at Ichijo's head. Ichijo gritted his teeth, his eyes flashing with ruthlessness, as he delivered a kick to the zombie in front of him. Smack! The boxer zombie's punch missed its target, instead smashing the head of the unfortunate zombie Ichijo had just kicked into place as a shield. The boxer zombie looked around the deserted hallway in confusion, unable to find any trace of its recent prey. It sniffed, catching the strong scent of fresh blood emanating from ahead. A faint red trail of mist led it to the door of a room. Inside was a ruined laboratory, red light spilling from the window, signaling a deadly trap. The mutated zombie stepped inside, its eyes scanning the messy tables and chairs and the pool of blood on the floor. It spotted a foot sticking out from behind a row of tables, thinking it had found an easy target. The monster roared and lunged forward, preparing to finish off its prey. Crash! A devastating punch was unleashed, but what it shattered was merely an empty laboratory table. Scene change. Natsume Etsuoka was holding a test tube containing a strange solution, looking extremely pensive. She murmured that separating these two elements was harder than imagined. The virus ratio in the magic core was too high, and the purity only reached about 60%. Flipping through all the documents, she still couldn't find any information about this virus. She grew even more bewildered when Ichijo, the only one who knew the origin of the magic ore, disappeared at such a crucial moment. Recalling the scene of the broken test tube and the pool of blood, she realized Ichijo not only knew about this but also knew exactly how to use it. Back in the battle, the boxer zombie stood amidst the rubble, still not understanding that it had just been tricked. It growled, wondering what a mere student could do. But right after that, Ichijo slowly appeared from behind. The monster spun around and unleashed a thunderous punch, but Ichijo deftly dodged, his shovel already in position. He spun, channeling all his combat experience into a powerful horizontal swing of the shovel. With a clean slash, Ichijo sent the mutated zombie's head flying, leaving it in stunned disbelief. Done with the task, Ichijo stood there, coldly looking down at the headless corpse of the mini-boss he had just outplayed. He mused that his plan to use his own blood to lure the monster had been a complete success, and his wound had also fully healed. Shinya Ichijo held several test tubes containing his own blood, confidently declaring that with this, he could avoid trivial combat encounters. Looking at the headless corpse of the fighter zombie, he calculated that only about 10 minutes remained. He had to speed up. The laboratory was now deserted, with only bloodstains and a deadly silence remaining. A crack echoed as the laboratory door slammed shut. Suddenly, Ichijo clutched his head and collapsed, a sudden, excruciating pain assailing him. In his mind, the consciousness of the zombie queen, Teal, was awakening. He realized this was a ticking time bomb, and if he wasn't fast, he would be annihilated. The sounds of the battle had drawn an entire horde of zombies on this floor. As soon as one fell, several others crawled forward. The blood of the recently defeated zombie splattered across the hallway, signaling a feast about to begin. A group of students was running for their lives, with several zombies hot on their heels. Ichijo stepped into the hallway, coldly glancing at the scene of students being ambushed by zombies, completely unconcerned. He ignored everything, muttering that the goal now was to move without engaging in combat. The broadcasting room was directly above. The path up the stairs was littered with dried and fresh bloodstains, signs of the unfortunate. He had reached the 4th floor, where the broadcasting room was located. Ichijo cautiously peeked around the corner, surveying the hallway ahead. Seeing no zombies lurking about, he stepped out with his shovel, cautiously advancing. He had reached the door of the broadcasting room, his hand on the doorknob, ready to proceed. The door burst open, splattering blood on the wall. The mission was nearing completion. Inside the broadcasting room was empty, with no zombies in sight, exactly as calculated. Ichijo stood in the middle of the room, muttering, hoping the equipment was still functional. Leaning the shovel against the wall, he approached the control panel and flipped the switch. The screen lit up success. In the middle of the broadcasting room, Shinya Ichijo confidently muttered, "I helped the broadcasting club a few times. I still remember how to use it." Just as things were going smoothly, a strange noise made him spin around, his eyes full of vigilance. Clatter! A rotting zombie hand was trying to squeeze through the slightly open door crack. Ichijo was still standing before the control panel, but his attention had completely shifted towards the uninvited guest. He was still tinkering with the equipment, unaware of the deadly danger slowly approaching from behind him. Ichijo's eyes widened in horror as he sensed a colossal presence right behind him. He reacted with lightning speed, grabbing the shovel handle in a fraction of a second. With his vast experience, Ichijo swung the shovel up, ready for battle. The shovel blade was covered in blood, proof of the battles he had just fought to get here. Ichijo narrowed his eyes at the intruder, his face showing clear annoyance and speechlessness. A bloated guardian zombie, swollen like a balloon, slowly lumbered into the room and growled, "Don't enter without permission." Ichijo immediately recognized this as a bloated zombie type, caused by accumulated decomposition gas, a mobile stench bomb. He knew this type wasn't overly strong, but the most dangerous thing was the gas it emitted, which would draw an entire army of zombies. The guardian zombie slowly shuffled towards the window, and Ichijo immediately understood the problem. It would attract a large number of other zombies. He turned, deciding to act before things went too far. Ichijo darted past the zombie, running straight for the window with a daring plan. "I must stop this thing from getting out," Ichijo growled, determined not to let it call for reinforcements. The guardian zombie raised its fat, bloated hands, intending to smash the window. Just as it touched the window, Ichijo closed in from behind. Crash! Ichijo put all his strength into ramming the monster's back, sending it flying straight through the window and out. With no time to drag it far, Shinya Ichijo improvised a tripwire with an electric cable, causing the hulking zombie to tumble. Damn it, the sound of breaking glass has alerted all the zombies on this floor, and just as expected, a horde of zombies shambled out from a hidden corner, drawn by the sound. Unable to fight them all alone, he immediately rushed into the broadcasting room to buy time. Only 4 minutes left. Ichijo broke into a sweat. He had to activate this damn system immediately. The zombies lethargically approached, lured by the fresh blood of the guardian zombie, a blonde female zombie appearing to be a formidable one. Ichijo knew full well that the pool of blood wouldn't hold them back for long, especially if another elite zombie appeared. He would be doomed for sure. The undead had shambled right to the door of the room, their growls growing closer. Ichijo gritted his teeth, unable to waste another second here. The blonde female zombie had peered in, only a few steps away from him. Clang! Just then, the school's public address system blared out. Commencing National Exercise Routine Number 7. Down in the schoolyard, an entire sea of shambling zombies suddenly froze, turning their heads towards the sound of the speakers. Just in time. Ichijo sighed in relief. Now the zombies would be drawn towards the speakers, but the path down to the schoolyard was also completely blocked. The zombies in the hallway immediately turned around, shambling towards the staircase to follow the call of the sound. But a new problem arose. A zombie hand clung to the railing, climbing up from the floor below. Ichijo was trapped between two waves of zombies, the ones that had just turned away in front, and the ones climbing up from behind. Looking down the staircase, he saw zombies from the 3rd floor also shambling up, his retreat route sealed off. While their attention was still focused on the speakers, Ichijo decided to take a gamble. He shot past the zombies on the 3rd floor, using maximum speed to break through the encirclement and run straight towards the safe house. Ichijo rushed to the safe house door and slammed it shut, temporarily shaking off the zombies. But as he turned back, he froze in shock. An entire hallway packed with zombies was shambling towards him, blocking the path. He frowned and thought, calculating. Rushing in would only waste time. There was no opening, so he had to wait for an opportunity. And the opportunity arrived. A zombie hand clung to the ledge, signaling that the prime target was in position. Ichijo hid behind the window, observing the bloated zombie staggering in the yard below, preparing for his plan. Boom! The fat zombie exploded like a meat bomb, splattering blood and organs everywhere. Seizing the moment, Ichijo growled, "Now!" Using the explosion to mask his movements, he shot out from the hallway, executing a masterful parkour move to leap straight to the gymnasium building. The plan was perfect. All the zombies in the yard were drawn by the explosion and the speakers, creating a deadly gap. Ichijo landed safely, confident that the schoolyard had been temporarily cleared. Just as calculated, he calmly entered the gymnasium, thinking everything was settled. Suddenly, another explosion rang out. The public address speakers on the rooftop burst into flames and fell silent. A mutant zombie in football gear stood tall. It was the culprit who had just ruined the plan. Ichijo cursed, knowing full well that at this rate, the entire horde of zombies would soon return to find him. And just as expected, the zombies lost their target, began to scramble up, and turned, surging towards him. With no retreat, Ichijo shouldered his shovel, charged straight across the grass, deciding to fight the entire horde to the death. He accelerated, pushing past the small fry, heading straight for his final objective. But a muscular guardian zombie suddenly appeared, blocking his path. Wham! He took a devastating punch to the ribs, the force so strong it bent his entire body. Despite taking the hit, Ichijo spun around to gain momentum, swinging his shovel in an extremely dangerous spinning attack to counter. Backed against a wall, Ichijo leaped into the midst of the zombie horde like a god, his shovel ready to carve a bloody path. But things weren't so simple. The protagonist was pinned to the ground by the horde, in a precarious situation. True to his regressor title, he struggled to his feet and swept his shovel, clearing the small fry around him. After clearing the area with a spin, Ichijo landed with an impressive flourish. Before him was the Gate of Light, his final objective. First-person perspective. The shovel was covered in blood and flesh, and a sea of zombies separated him from the exit. The zombies screamed, scrambling forward, determined not to let their sole prey escape. Damn it! Just a little more! Ichijo desperately reached out, but his hand began to grotesquely transform with a surge of dark energy. Scene change. A skyscraper towered amidst the stormy night, thunder rumbling. In the laboratory, Natsume Etsuoka gazed thoughtfully at the test tube, muttering about how the virus could turn people into zombies, just like the corpse they saw yesterday. The pharmaceutical genius came up with a bold hypothesis. What if someone willingly drank it? Natsume noticed a strange figure in the laboratory, and she questioned. Then you, a long-haired female zombie with glowing red eyes and six-pack abs emerged from the shadows, coldly asking, "Who are you?" The scene returned to the schoolyard. The football zombie was growling when it was suddenly attacked by glowing red slashes. It turned out the attacker was Tile, the zombie queen. She stood atop the football zombie with razor-sharp claws, looking like a malevolent deity. The football zombie and its surrounding minions lay dead all around. The battlefield had been thoroughly cleared. Tile turned to look at Ichijo, asking a question full of hidden meaning. "Why did you save me?" Her blood-red eyes were sharp as knives. Blood oozed from her darkened lips, exuding the aura of a ruler. Ichijo stood before the gate, facing Tile, and she continued to question. "What exactly do you want?" Tile raised her head high, her gaze a mix of disdain and curiosity. The fresh blood on her chest further enhanced her eerie allure. She stepped closer, growling a warning to the protagonist. "Don't come any closer." Ichijo advanced, a challenging smirk on his face before the zombie queen Tile, who remained vigilant. Quick as lightning, Tile used her sharp claws to grip Ichijo's chin, and blood began to seep out. With power-filled crimson eyes, Tile growled, asking him directly, "What trick are you trying to pull?" A horrifying image flashed. Tile bared her fangs, growling like a crazed monster about to tear something apart. The scene suddenly shifted. Ichijo found himself being stopped by Natsume Etsuoka, but he had already gripped her hand tightly. In the laboratory, an empty syringe lay on the table, recalling a past event. Ichijo, now shirtless, pinned Natsume to the floor, causing her to cry out in panic. "What are you going to do to me?" As he choked her, Ichijo awoke with a start, his voice hesitant. "Etsuoka?" the girl replied cryptically. "Finally realized it, have we?" Ichijo dazedly realized he was back in the laboratory, still on top of Natsume. Natsume placed both hands on Ichijo's bare chest, his bulging muscles clearly visible. Suddenly, she pushed with great force, sending Ichijo flying away, much to his astonishment. Natsume sighed in relief, her eyes sparkling as she looked at him, while Ichijo merely uttered, "You research nerd." Ichijo stood up, extending a hand and asking, "Are you all right?" "Sorry. Could you tell me what happened last night?" Natsume began to recount, saying she saw a figure resembling a woman suddenly appear in the laboratory. Then that figure suddenly collapsed, and she rushed over to examine it. It turned out to be Ichijo, covered in injuries and extremely weakened. So she quickly administered first aid to him. Ichijo asked again, "Did I look like a woman?" Natsume awkwardly suggested it was probably due to extreme fatigue, causing her to missee. But Ichijo knew it wasn't a dream. He wondered, why did that thing possess my body and bring me here? Natsume interrupted his thoughts, holding out a stack of documents. "Look. These are your test results." Ichijo was stunned as he read the results. Natsume explained, "The zombie virus was detected in your body, but instead of rejecting it, your body seems to depend on it." Natsume, holding a syringe, explained, "I extracted the zombie virus from your body." She revealed a shocking truth. The virus in him had perfectly fused with the virus from the energy stones, so she risked her life to inject it directly into him. As a result, Ichijo's wounds healed, but in return, the zombie virus in his body was depleted. Ichijo, upon hearing this, could only exclaim, "What?" Ichijo finally understood. His overwhelming regeneration ability was due to this virus, and abusing it had caused him to lose control. Natsume took the offensive, questioning him directly. "Now it's my turn. Are you human or zombie? And why do you possess energy stones, something that doesn't exist in this world?" Ichijo remained silent, lowering his head to look at the test results in his hand. The atmosphere in the laboratory grew tense. Ichijo looked up, asking an unrelated question. "Do you believe in time travel?" Which froze Natsume in place. Without waiting, Ichijo blurted out, "I'm serious. I traveled from the world 5 years in the future, a world that ended due to zombies." Natsume was deeply shocked, stammering as she asked, "You mean things like yesterday will appear all over the world in another month?" Ichijo confirmed, describing how zombie-infested special zones would sprout like mushrooms, engulfing entire cities in deadly red light. Seeing Natsume still bewildered, Ichijo decided to present evidence. "Hard to believe, right? But I have something to show you. Where are my clothes, by the way?" While retrieving his shirt, Ichijo calculated, deciding to temporarily conceal the inventory matter, not wanting to repeat past life's mistakes. If Natsume became an enemy, he would be doomed. He opened his inventory, spilling out a pile of glittering energy stones that made Natsume's eyes light up as if she'd seen gold. Wow. Ichijo explained these were spoils from the special zones. Natsume showed off her achievement, a red power-boosting potion, whose purity she had increased to 70% in just one day. Ichijo had to admit her skill was incredible. While Natsume continued to bury herself in researching the stones, Ichijo held the potion, gazing at her thoughtfully. Natsume curiously asked about her future. What will I be like in 5 years? Since you sought me out, were we perhaps teammates in your past life? Ichijo bluntly replied, your future is already dead, and we were never acquainted. Natsume froze, asking how he knew her, and how she died. He explained that he only knew her by reputation as a genius pharmacist, and she didn't die from zombies, but by turning herself into a test subject. Ichijo called her name hesitantly, then reassured her. Etsuoka. Don't worry, I won't let you come to harm. Hearing about her reckless self-experimentation, Natsume laughed, completely convinced. That's exactly what I would do. From now on, I'll give my full support to you. Ichijo, still shirtless, held out the potion and declared, all right, let's finish up the remaining tasks. Ding! The elevator stopped on the 15th floor. Elsewhere, a subordinate was laboriously carrying a heavy wooden crate. Hatano and Mineta panted after carrying the money, complaining about the heat and how heavy the money was. Both entered the room, stunned to see Natsume perched on a swivel chair in a modern laboratory. Hatano quickly bowed an apology, thinking he had entered the wrong room, which froze Mineta in place. Mineta was dragged away by the collar by Hatano. In extreme panic, Ichijo appeared, explaining that he had bought up all the goods on the market and still had undelivered items. Ichijo handed Hatano the red strength-enhancing potion, making the gang boss hesitate. This is. Hatano held the potion, his face full of doubt, while Mineta was utterly bewildered beside him. Ichijo reassured him with sharp eyes. Just drink it, and you'll understand. Trust me. Without hesitation, Hatano chugged the entire potion, then smashed the empty vial. Crimson energy erupted around Hatano. He tensed, enduring the agonizing pain. Natsume was worried, but Ichijo calmly stopped her, explaining that the potion's 70% purity meant only physically robust individuals like Hatano could withstand it. Hatano panted, but then smirked triumphantly. I feel much better. Power is surging through my entire body. To demonstrate, Hatano effortlessly lifted 2 heavy crates of money as if they were toys, making everyone gape in astonishment. Hatano reported that most of this money belonged to Ijuin's gang, and there might be even more. Ichijo smirked sinisterly, declaring he would seize all of Ijuin's money right at his birthday party, while also planning to equip his subordinates with the potion. Night fell upon the city. Tall buildings lit up brilliantly, signaling a restless night. At a luxurious billiard table, Ijuin Nozomi coldly asked his subordinate about the person who had acquired all the gold on the market. Rick reported to Ijuin that the gold accumulation in the market was too smooth. Definitely the work of a group. Ijuin dismissed the hypothesis about international corporations, stating that they were merely inflating gold prices artificially, without actual supply. Rick wondered why they weren't selling their gold reserves to secure profits while prices were at their peak, as this situation wouldn't last. He appeared serious, emphasizing that they had spent many years collecting that gold. Ijuin merely smiled, chiding Rick for being as cautious as ever. Iramen, sipping her drink, spoke up, suggesting that caution was never excessive, and they should hold on to the gold to see what their opponents were planning. Ijuin coolly executed a perfect billiard shot. Rick remained puzzled, unable to understand why his boss would pass up such a lucrative opportunity. He believed the purpose of hoarding gold was to make a profit, so selling it when the price was right was obvious. Finally, Rick conceded. All right then, you're the boss, you decide. Ijuin abruptly changed the subject with sharp eyes, asking about the progress of the Old Town District takeover plan. After hearing the report, Ijuin pressed Rick. Rick, do you know why we've gathered here? Rick stammered that it was to achieve results, but Ijuin slammed the cue stick onto the table, growling. Wrong, it's not that simple. Ijuin bitterly explained that no matter how hard they tried, all their efforts were usurped by those old bigwigs, while they were forever seen as mere pampered young masters. He asserted that their family background and the shadow of their parents were hindering them. Understood? I don't want to wait any longer, Ijuin commanded, and Rick immediately promised to settle the Old Town District matter by tomorrow. Ijuin decided to postpone selling the gold, prioritizing the district redevelopment plan. He executed a spectacular billiard shot, declaring it was time to show those old men that this was the era of the younger generation. Finished, Ijuin turned to Iraman. Have you found out who that kid at the casino was? Iraman took a sip of wine, her eyes full of hidden meaning. Yes. Eve reviewed the files. And there's something very noteworthy. Iraman began reporting on the target, but mistakenly identified Shinya Ichijo as a female student named Ichijo Maya, orphaned at an early age. She continued with the false information that this girl had to work various part-time jobs to survive, and had joined a classmates' organization, which was why she was at the casino. Ijuin Nozomi coldly asked, "Is that all?" While preparing a shot, Ijuin's eyes flashed with killing intent. Clearly, this trivial information did not satisfy him. Iraman directly proposed, "Eliminate her. She seems tough, but it must be done cleanly, leaving no trace." Meanwhile, Ichijo had anticipated everything, thinking to himself, "I knew it. They've already targeted the prey." A dark figure with blazing eyes stealthily followed Ichijo, hiding behind a wall corner. Ichijo calmly checked his inventory. The gold Hatano collected was enough for him to reach level 15, but he still needed more materials for upgrades and research. He suddenly stopped, his sharp gaze sweeping behind him, having sensed his pursuer. A red-haired assassin appeared, skillfully twirling a butterfly knife, grumbling. "Wake up, kid. I never thought I'd have to take down a student." The assassin blocked Ichijo's path in the dark alley, bluntly declaring, "Work's been a bit boring lately. I'll kill you for the bounty." The red-haired assassin charged like a moth to a flame, yelling, "You picked the wrong fight, blame yourself." But Ichijo merely stood still with a bored expression. Ichijo's eyes were unperturbed, easily reading the enemy's movements. With a single fluid motion, Ichijo flipped over the assassin's arm, completely catching him off guard. Whoosh! Ichijo snatched the butterfly knife mid-air, disarming his opponent in an instant. Slam! He grabbed the assassin's hair, forcefully smashing his head down. Wham! A devastating knee strike directly to the face left the assassin dazed. Ichijo locked down his opponent, held the stolen knife to his throat, and interrogated, "Answer me. Did Ijuin send you?" After getting a trembling answer, Ichijo tossed the assassin away like a sack of trash. The red-haired assassin lay sprawled on the ground, his face drained of color, pitifully begging, "Wait, please don't kill me." Ichijo coldly warned the assassin, "Tell Kibu, Ian, that it's not time to settle things yet, just wait. As for you, never show your face before me again," causing the assassin to tremble and reply, "Understood." With a command to be gone, Ichijo let the assassin flee headlong from the dark alley. Now alone, Ichijo narrowed his eyes, beginning to calculate his next move. The atmosphere around him suddenly transformed, the space tinged with the blazing red of the special zone, level 8. Ichijo mused that thanks to his regression, he had entered the special zone even before the apocalypse began. But everything had two sides, so this time he had to go alone. He concluded that, with his experience from his previous life, he would have a perfect head start. But to confront the final bosses, he still had to take risks, accepting danger to grow stronger. His immediate goal was to seize the resources of the underworld, and Old Man Koyanagawa's birthday party in 2 days was the golden opportunity to act. Before that, he needed to convert as many zombie crystals into medicine as possible to prepare for the battle. Ichijo also didn't forget his trump card, Tail. Her power was essential, but he remained wary as he couldn't fully trust her yet. Meanwhile, the pieces were set. Hatano's gang was operating precisely according to plan. In the laboratory, pharmaceutical genius Natsume Etsuoka was focused on her research, with Mineta beside her. Elsewhere, a blond man in a suit was furious. His fate and that of his subordinates were clearly being manipulated by Ichijo. Ichijo told himself that he was the one controlling everyone's destiny, and to do that, he had to become even stronger. Dawn broke, a new day began, and it seemed some achievement had been completed. Natsume Etsuoka held up a test tube containing a blue solution, her face glowing with the mad excitement of a scientist. "It's complete." She exclaimed that it was a perfectly pure potion, while Mineta, just waking up, asked blankly, "Huh?" Yawning, Mineta asked what was happening. Then Natsume turned back with the test tube in hand, calling, "Mineta, come here for a moment." Mineta saw Natsume's expression and the test tube, sensing something ominous. Click! The laboratory door opened, and Ichijo stepped in with a cold expression. Mineta flinched, utterly terrified to see his boss suddenly appear right in front of him. Ichijo didn't say much, lifting Mineta with one hand like a toy. With sharp eyes, he immediately recognized the thug. "Mineta?" Ichijo frowned. It seemed the recent collision had left him a little sore. Crash! Ichijo mercilessly slammed Mineta onto the floor, the boy yelping in pain. Natsume analyzed that the drug only increased speed by 10%, while Mineta yelled that it wasn't the drug that was weak, but that the boss was too overwhelmingly powerful. Ichijo pulled Mineta up, warning him coldly. Using the drug without me here is too dangerous. He turned to Natsume, his eyes puzzled. What kind of hairstyle is this? Natsume smugly explained it was a fresh perspective from a researcher, leaving Ichijo speechless and demanding they get to the main point. Natsume reported casually, the drug is almost complete, but the stat limit only allows for a 10% increase. Ichijo calculated, 10% was the limit for low-grade magic stones, while Natsume's research speed was about to catch up to his leveling progress. Make more of the drug. We'll need it tonight, Ichijo ordered, then turned to Mineta. Call Hatano here immediately. 2 hours later, Hatano Toshiki appeared, waving casually while Ichijo maintained his stone-cold expression. From Natsume's perspective, Ichijo and Hatano were discussing important matters by the large window of the laboratory. Natsume turned to ask Mineta about Ichijo's change, while the thug was still muttering the words boss, boss. Mineta confessed that he didn't understand anything, only that the good-for-nothing Ichijo Maya he used to bully had suddenly transformed into a boss in just a few days. Natsume deduced sharply. She guessed Ichijo had time-traveled, bringing power from his previous life, and wondered what his true purpose was. Ichijo declared his plan. Tonight is Koyanagawa's birthday. A perfect opportunity to take down the entire nest. Hatano expressed concern because the stakes were too high, but Ichijo brushed it off, asserting that with the drug in hand, victory was possible, and the gang boss immediately obeyed. Ichijo concluded, tonight is the decisive battle. You will show your face as the boss. Having said that, Ichijo left for personal business, and the scene shifted to an old man, leisurely pruning trees in a luxurious villa estate. The old boss Koyanagawa asked his subordinate about the recent chaos, being informed that Hatano Toshiki was expanding and had even taken over Ren Ogane's territory. Koyanagawa sneered, disdainful of Hatano's efforts, and declared that branches that grew too long needed to be pruned. A young branch was severed, falling into the night, signaling an impending purge. At a luxurious parking lot, a fat man showed off to the valet before entering the party with a girl. From inside a room, Hatano Toshiki looked down at the street, where Koyanagawa's subordinates were strictly guarding. Hatano grew impatient because Ichijo still hadn't appeared, fearing he had run away, but the muscular blue-haired man advised him to wait calmly. As time passed, Hatano grew increasingly annoyed, wondering what Ichijo was doing and suspecting he had been tricked. A subordinate showed discouragement, thinking that with so few people, they couldn't confront Koyanagawa. But Hatano snapped at him to shut up. The muscular blue-haired man pulled Hatano into the restroom for a private talk, suggesting he was being too greedy and reckless. The subordinate continued to analyze, stating that this battle was too difficult because Koyanagawa's entire force had gathered, while their trump card, Ichijo, was missing. Hatano brushed him off, asking in return if an apology would solve anything after they had come this far, then decisively pulled out the power-boosting drug vial. The blue-haired man suggested that if they handed this overwhelmingly powerful drug vial to Koyanagawa, their lives might be spared, but still affirmed that the final decision rested with boss Hatano. Outside, Koyanagawa's bodyguards received orders once all guests had arrived. Clear out and close the doors. A bodyguard was about to close the door when he startled and stopped, seeing someone approach. On the roof of the opposite building, Ichijo was observing the entire situation with binoculars, whispering Hatano's name. Inside the lavish party hall, the crowd gathered to eat and drink, completely unaware of an impending storm. The old boss Koyanagawa stood on a raised platform, observing his birthday party with a powerful expression. The blonde-haired subordinate ran over and whispered into Koyanagawa's ear, "Boss, Hatano's gang has arrived." Hatano Toshiki led his subordinates, boldly advancing into the center of the party hall to everyone's astonishment. Koyanagawa mocked Hatano for daring to show his face uninvited, but Hatano coolly retorted, "We're just here to congratulate you." The old boss Koyanagawa smirked, looking directly at Hatano. "That face doesn't look like it's here to congratulate me, does it?" Facing Hatano's entire gang, Koyanagawa declared his strength was still firm. "I may be old, but am not weak yet." Hatano Toshiki sneered, feigning reconciliation, but his eyes seemed to want to devour his opponent. "Calm down. Let's talk first, shall we?" The entire party hall held its breath. Hatano's gang stood surrounded by bodyguards. A major battle was about to erupt. The blonde-haired bodyguard lit a cigar for Koyanagawa, and the old boss acknowledged his opponent's strength. "It seems you've thoroughly prepared to swallow up so much of my territory in just a few days." Koyanagawa questioned bluntly, "Do you want to show off your power even if it means doing this? What is your purpose? Speak." Hatano exhaled, his voice full of defiance. I don't have much time, so speaking this much isn't enough. Without another word, Hatano lunged forward, unleashing a thunderous punch and roaring his ultimate goal. What I'm aiming for is your seat. Hatano's punch halted, his eyes wide with surprise as he realized something was wrong. The blonde-haired bodyguard had already stepped in front of Koyanagawa, one hand blocking Hatano's devastating punch. Koyanagawa puffed out cigar smoke, his tone full of sarcasm. I knew you came to cause trouble, but I didn't expect you to be so greedy. The old boss smirked contemptuously, seemingly enjoying the arrogance of his inferior. I've been underestimated. Suddenly, Hatano used a grappling technique, grabbed the bodyguard's arm, and slammed him hard onto the floor, to Koyanagawa's astonishment. Hatano stood tall, ordering his fired-up subordinates. Brothers, deal with them. Koyanagawa calmly smoked his cigar amidst the chaos, acknowledging his opponent's strength. You're quite good, better than I thought. Finishing his words, the old boss lunged at Hatano, unleashing a powerful punch. But you've made a big mistake if you think you can defeat me with just that level of skill. Koyanagawa's sinewy hand grabbed Hatano's face directly. The old man's strength was no joke. Meanwhile, the blonde-haired bodyguard had gotten up, grabbed one of Hatano's subordinates, and mercilessly slammed his head onto the floor. Koyanagawa tightened his grip, choking Hatano's throat and face, completely overpowering him with sheer muscle strength. The blonde-haired bodyguard lifted a Hatano gang member with a chokehold, clearly demonstrating the vast difference in their power levels. Completely overwhelmed, Hatano was bent backward by the old boss Koyanagawa, using pure brute strength. The blonde bodyguard, despite being held tightly, was still astonished by Hatano's strength. So strong. Giving his opponent no time to breathe, Koyanagawa swung his iron fist straight forward. A devastating punch landed directly on Hatano's stomach, causing him extreme pain. Hatano was sent flying like a ball, crashing straight into the tables and chairs behind him. Koyanagawa exhaled smoke, ordering the muscular bodyguard. Clean them up before the party starts. The bodyguard confidently replied, Yes, they're decent, but just small fry. I'll handle them quickly. Hatano struggled to his feet, bitterly admitting, he truly is the strongest bodyguard. After taking the medicine, I can finally fight properly. They are on a completely different level. Seeing his subordinates getting beaten badly, Hatano broke out in a cold sweat. They're still fighting normally. Once the medicine wears off, there's no chance of winning. The masked subordinate, Ichijo, stood watching the situation, while Hatano cast aside all thoughts and roared a challenge. Come on. The blonde bodyguard rushed forward, throwing a hook punch aimed at the masked man's face. The masked man, Ichijo, narrowly dodged the blow, stunning the bodyguard with his speed. Wham! A clean retaliatory punch landed squarely on the bodyguard's cheek, leaving him no time to react. Without stopping, Ichijo followed up with a thunderous punch to the opponent's chest. The bodyguard doubled over from the punch, completely helpless against Ichijo's combo attack. Ichijo grabbed the bodyguard's head with one hand, preparing to deliver a finishing blow. Crash! The blonde bodyguard was slammed straight to the floor, creating a small explosion that shattered the ground. Hatano froze, jaw agape, witnessing the unbelievable sight. I can't even touch him. I'm completely disadvantaged. Meanwhile, Hatano's subordinates were still getting thoroughly thrashed by Koyanagawa's bodyguards. Hatano looked back at the blonde bodyguard struggling to get up, beginning to doubt his choice. Did I choose wrong? Maybe I should apologize and beg for forgiveness. If I hand over the medicine, perhaps he'll spare me. Koyanagawa narrowed his eyes and ordered his bodyguard. Finish it quickly. The bodyguard stood up, looked at Hatano, and made a recruitment offer. Hey Hatano, you've got talent. If you admit your mistake, I can put in a good word for you with the boss. Hatano Toshiki refused the recruitment offer, admitting that his life had changed since meeting that man. With a determined gaze, Hatano declared he was sick of petty extortion and would bow down and become a subordinate to his new boss. The blonde bodyguard, enraged, lunged forward, roaring, Then it's unfortunate for you, you're going to die. Hatano desperately looked at the medicine bottle, thinking that if he took another dose, he might have a chance to win. Just as the bodyguard's punch was about to land, a hand stopped it. Ichijo, appearing out of nowhere. Shinya Ichijo glanced at Hatano, his voice terrifyingly calm. Sorry boss, I'm late. The blonde bodyguard was stunned, straining with all his might, but his arm wouldn't budge. He stammered, What kind of monstrous strength is this? Thud. Ichijo delivered a straight punch to the bodyguard's chest, the impact force shaking the air. Ichijo coldly warned the frozen in shock Hatano. If you drink 2 bottles, you'll die from the side effects. Hatano realized in shock that it was all just a test. He had been manipulated by Ichijo from the start. In a flashback, Ichijo casually explained that he chose Hatano simply because he met him first. Nothing more, nothing less. Hatano accepted the truth, knowing he had chosen the right path to survival, and pledged absolute loyalty. Ichijo smirked. I like intelligent people. Hatano immediately bowed. Then, boss, please give your orders. Koyanagawa scolded the battered blonde bodyguard. What the hell are you doing? He's clearly just a kid. In the middle of the party hall, Hatano pointed directly at Koyanagawa and shouted, Koyanagawa Tatsuya, prepare to die, old man. Koyanagawa's face darkened with anger, and he ruthlessly ordered, kill every single one of them for me. Koyanagawa's subordinates whispered, unable to believe that Kawase, a big shot in the group, was taken out by a kid with a single blow. A buzzcut bodyguard, grabbing Hatano's blue-haired subordinate by the collar, asked in astonishment, is he a student? The bodyguard was still in shock, staring wide-eyed at Ichijo. The blue-haired subordinate, despite being restrained, smirked defiantly. Don't be surprised yet, the real fun has only just begun. Crash. Ichijo sent one of Koyanagawa's subordinates flying with a kick, kicking off the battle. The blonde bodyguard muttered resentfully, I never thought I'd have to fight a student. Ichijo coldly retorted. And today is also the day you lose to a student. The enraged bodyguard roared. You brat, don't you dare look down on me. He lunged forward, unleashing a devastating hook punch aimed directly at Ichijo. Ichijo lightly dodged the blow, slipping to the side as if taking a stroll, causing the bodyguard's punch to merely whiz through the air. The bodyguard continued to furiously attack with a powerful spinning kick. Ichijo maintained his indifferent demeanor, easily evading every attack, causing the bodyguard to yell, Damn it, are you just going to keep dodging? Hatano, his face covered in blood, was in deep shock witnessing the scene. Even with the medicine, I couldn't even touch that guy. Yet he's toying with him like a cat with a mouse. What terrifying power. Koyanagawa's face darkened as he heard the guests whispering about his top bodyguard getting thrashed by a kid. He wondered who the hell Hatano was to have such a powerful ally. One subordinate was about to speak but was motioned for silence by another. The whole group could only watch the match with bated breath. Koyanagawa resentfully thought about his 40 years of building his career, unable to accept having it ruined. The old man muttered angrily. And now some rat appears and takes a bite? Koyanagawa's eyes turned cold and sharp. He decided he would not lose face, ordering the strongest in the organization to deal with this kid. He gave the blonde bodyguard an ultimatum. I'll give you 1 more minute. Hurry up and start. The bodyguard broke out in a cold sweat, realizing Ichijo was a monster in a student's guise. His face didn't even flinch despite being punched. He desperately admitted in his head, I've expended all my strength. I can't even land a hit, let alone finish him off in 1 minute. In desperation, the bodyguard swung a large wooden board at Ichijo. Ichijo easily blocked the attack, then unleashed a devastating high kick, lightning fast. The blonde bodyguard was utterly defeated, unable to believe he was so thoroughly outmatched in pure strength. Not a single flinch. Am I not even his equal in pure strength? Ichijo delivered the high kick, coldly scoffing. You're full of openings. Bang. A thunderous kick landed squarely on the blonde bodyguard's face, the impact distorting space itself. The bodyguard flew like a bullet, crashing into the wall and making the entire room shake, while Ichijo landed softly. Koyanagawa was stunned, speechless, unable to believe that the strongest man in his organization had been taken down by a mere high school student with a single blow. Ichijo dusted off his hands, his amber eyes devoid of emotion, as if he had just finished a warm-up. One of Koyanagawa's commanders shouted, offering the fallen man's position as a reward to anyone who could kill Ichijo. The remaining subordinates, their eyes red with greed, brandishing clubs and daggers, charged forward like a pack of hungry beasts. Facing an armed crowd, Ichijo merely stood still, his overwhelming aura making them look like a bunch of clowns. Quick as lightning, Ichijo grabbed the knife wielder's hand, reversed the weapon, and plunged it straight into its owner's stomach, making him scream in agony. He used the impaled man's body as a human shield, neatly blocking an axe swing from behind. In a flash, a symphony of violence unfolded as Ichijo wiped out all the bodyguards, blood splattering everywhere. Koyanagawa broke out in a cold sweat, horrified to realize this kid's physical strength had far surpassed human limits. Amidst a battlefield littered with corpses, Ichijo advanced, a blood-stained knife in his hand, making the boss stammer a plea for negotiation. Losing all patience, Koyanagawa roared in despair. I told you to shut up. Whoosh! A knife flew straight, embedding itself precisely in the boss's throat, cutting short his scream. Koyanagawa's eyes widened. Blood gushed from his mouth as his consciousness faded. In his final moments, He couldn't accept the truth that he had been eliminated by a mere high school student. The entire luxurious banquet hall was now nothing but a slaughterhouse, with Ichijo and Hatano's faction standing amidst the wreckage. The guests trembled, unable to believe their eyes as they witnessed boss Koyanagawa neatly overthrown by an unknown group. Hatano Toshiki was frozen in place, unable to believe that kid had single-handedly wiped out the entire Koyanagawa gang. Ichijo coldly called out boss, making the bewildered Hatano startle and awkwardly respond. The gang leaders present at the party stared intently, their faces taut with tension after the bloody purge. Hatano looked at Koyanagawa's corpse, thinking to himself, in less than a week, the old fox who had dominated this region for decades had been sent straight to hell. He silently admitted that this kid had shattered every conventional logic he had ever known. Standing before the entire underworld, Hatano boldly declared, "As you can see, Koyanagawa is dead. I am Toshiki Hatano, a man who, until recently, was just a petty thug specializing in extortion." He recalled Ichijo's firm promise from the past, "I will bring you to the top." Hatano's eyes sharpened as he growled his declaration of power. "But from today, I am your new boss." The scene shifted to a massive construction site where skyscrapers were under construction. A muscular foreman was yelling, urging the workers, "Hurry up, if we're late Mr. Ijuin will flay us all alive." Suddenly, a group of thugs in black suits aggressively entered, and the foreman immediately stopped them. "Who are you? Get out of here and don't cause trouble." Asserting his authority, the foreman demanded the strangers leave, as they couldn't afford any delays. The leader of the thugs sneered mockingly, his voice full of challenge. "What if there's a delay? Hand over the protection money." In a luxurious apartment, Ijuin Nozomi was relaxing when the door burst open. A scarred subordinate rushed in to report, his face pale. "Mr. Ijuin, there's trouble at the financial center construction site." The subordinate explained that this morning, a group of Koyanagawa's men had stormed in, demanding protection money and thoroughly beaten the workers. Ijuin slammed the table in anger. "Those bastards! Have they lost their minds? We're still paying them regularly, call them immediately." The subordinate reported that they couldn't be reached, so Ijuin irritably ordered them to just give them the money, because progress was paramount. The scarred subordinate seriously said, "They are demanding to meet you directly. It seems their objective isn't money." Ijuin brushed aside the scarred subordinate's advice, declaring he would go to the construction site himself, believing it was just a minor nuisance. At the financial center construction site, it was raining cats and dogs. Under the pouring rain, a convoy of sleek black cars pulled up. Ijuin's faction and Koyanagawa's thugs stood facing each other, the tension palpable. Koyanagawa's subordinate spoke up, welcoming Ijuin with sarcasm. He glanced at the bodyguards accompanying Ijuin, then sneered. "Bringing so many men, quite cautious, aren't you?" Ijuin lost patience and growled directly. "Cut the nonsense. What does Koyanagawa want?" The subordinate flicked his cigarette and smirked as he delivered shocking news. "Just so you know, Koyanagawa is no longer our boss." Ijuin's entire faction was stunned by this unexpected announcement. The thug continued cryptically, "Our current boss is." Ijuin's eyes widened in surprise as he saw a familiar figure step out from behind. Hatano Toshiki, the gangster with the X-shaped scar, appeared and greeted Ijuin, leaving the young master deeply shocked to realize that the man who once worked for him had overthrown Koyanagawa in just a few days. Ijuin immediately deduced who was behind everything, a dangerous glint in his eyes. Shinya Ichijo stood silently in the rain, his sharp amber eyes, his mind already calculating. "I knew it, but I don't have time to waste on this guy. The schedule is already tight." Ijuin regained his composure and directly asked Hatano's objective, since they didn't need money. Hatano sneered, declaring he didn't want to waste time with idle talk. He got straight to the point, declaring he was here for the gold Ijuin was hoarding, making the young master's face change color. Ichijo confirmed from the shadows, "That's right, but it's still not enough." Ijuin snapped, not understanding why they were hoarding so much gold. Hatano played a psychological card, advising Ijuin to obediently hand over the gold to focus on the construction project if he wanted to prove his capabilities. Ijuin Nozomi adopted a superior air, assuming Hatano had thoroughly investigated, and asked directly, "So, what's the price?" Hatano Toshiki smirked, his eyes cold as he warned, "Listen carefully. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you to hand it over." The two factions faced off fiercely under the torrential rain, the atmosphere as tense as a stretched bowstring. Ijuin began to lose patience, snapping, "You lunatics. We've already made concessions, and you're still playing games? Do you, a piece of trash, think you can stand in my way? Get lost." Hatano sneered, continuing his psychological attack. "You're not the only one who knows the value of this land. We might not be able to take you down directly, but stalling for time is easy. Ijuin froze, his mind screaming. How does he know? Only a few people in the inner circle know about the development plan for this area. Who exactly is this guy? The young master glared at the thugs, uttering contemptuous words. Silent now, are we? You scum. You truly are the trash of society. Hatano narrowed his eyes, growling. What did you say? Ijuin completely lost control, pointing at Hatano's face and yelling. You barbarian who only knows violence. Is this what you call negotiation? Acting all high and mighty? Losing his patience, Ijuin ordered his bodyguards. Kill them all. The two gangs immediately clashed, a bloody brawl erupting right there on the construction site. One of Ijuin's muscular bodyguards roared, unleashing a devastating punch aimed directly at Hatano. The powerful punch tore through the air, its goal to finish off the enemy leader. Thud! Shinya Ichijo stepped out from behind Hatano, effortlessly blocking the burly bodyguard's punch with one hand. Ichijo didn't even bother looking at his opponent, his gaze as cold as ice, completely disregarding the attack. With just one hand, Ichijo lifted the bodyguard off the ground, as if he were a toy. Ichijo frowned slightly, annoyed at having to act himself. Damn it. The bodyguard broke out in a cold sweat, his voice trembling before the terrifying power. Do you know who I am? What kind of strength is this? Ichijo flung the bodyguard away like a sack of trash, leaving Ijuin frozen, speechless before this display of absolute power. Hatano grabbed Ijuin by the collar, sneering. I might be a brute, but I climbed to the top with my own life. You're just a pampered young master hiding behind your family's shadow. Suddenly, a muscular hand grabbed Hatano's arm, stopping his action. Minagawa Tatsuhiro, Ijuin's bodyguard, had intervened, easily swatting Hatano's hand away with a confident expression. The purple-haired bodyguard swung a devastating punch straight at Hatano's face, determined to clean up this mess. Clang! Shinya Ichijo casually raised his hand, effortlessly blocking Minagawa's powerful punch. Without giving his opponent a chance to recover, Ichijo gripped the burly bodyguard's shirt tightly. With a swift movement, Ichijo lifted Minagawa, preparing to execute a terrifying grappling throw. He spun around, using all his strength to slam the bodyguard onto the soaking wet ground. Thud! Minagawa was slammed directly into a puddle, creating a small splash, lying motionless on the spot. Ijuin was stunned, his pupils contracting in shock. Minagawa was taken down? In the silent construction site under the rain, Minagawa lay sprawled on the ground, completely unconscious. Ijuin frantically ran over, shaking his subordinate in vain. Hey, Minagawa, what's wrong? Wake up! He gritted his teeth, realizing that calling out to the bodyguard was useless. Ijuin cursed under his breath, furious, unable to believe that someone proficient in all martial arts like Minagawa could be taken down as easily as a good-for-nothing. Ichijo spoke coldly, pressuring Ijuin. Your friend is gone. What's your plan now? While the pampered young master could only mutter about the disadvantageous situation, with his golden eyes glowing in the darkness, Ichijo read his opponent. Let me guess. You're planning to cut your losses and run, aren't you? Hit where it hurt. Ijuin flinched, veins bulging on his face. Who is this bastard? He sees right through me. Knowing he couldn't use force, Ijuin raised his hands, switching to negotiation. Calm down. I'll give you whatever you want. You need money, right, Hatano? Accept our terms. Ichijo narrowed his eyes, looking directly at Ijuin as he shouted his demand. Hand that kid over to me. He's been a thorn in my side ever since the casino incident. Cornered, Ijuin began to play the money card, boasting that the Ijuin family could meet any conditions. The pampered young master secretly plotted a sinister scheme, intending to trick the other two into fighting each other so he could reap the benefits without effort. Smugly believing no one could resist this temptation, Ichijo openly showed his disdain, muttering about Ijuin's habit of using his family's wealth to manipulate others. He growled, speaking directly to the arrogant Ijuin's face. Just hearing your voice makes me sick. Psychologically cornered, Ijuin panicked and yelled, You, what are you going to do? Hey, Hatano, stop him right now. Ichijo and Hatano coldly turned their backs and left, getting into the luxurious car that was waiting. Sitting in the car, Hatano looked worried, asking Ichijo if it was all right to just leave Ijuin there. Ichijo glanced over his shoulder, seeing Ijuin's bruised face, and stated confidently, Don't worry, he won't die. His golden eyes flashed with a cruel glint, thinking to himself, I won't let you die so easily. The car stopped before a traffic light that was red. Hatano wondered if Ijuin would obediently hand over the money. Ichijo gave a faint smile, asserting that for Ijuin, the project was far more important. Under the pouring rain, pedestrians hurried across the street under the car's headlights. Ichijo changed the subject, asking Hatano about the task he had given him. His eyes sharp, Hatano reported that he had found a massive warehouse in the countryside as instructed, and was sending the coordinates immediately. Hatano handed Ichijo a golden card, saying that it was the organization's fund, and Ichijo should be the one to hold it. The traffic light turned green, and Ichijo asked how much money was on the card. Hatano revealed that the organization's total assets were about $40 million, but only $1 million was on the card. The rest needed time to be converted into cash. Ichijo held the card, his gaze thoughtful as he looked out the car window, muttering, "It's time to stock up on supplies." He opened a virtual system interface, calculating that enough low-grade crystals had been collected to upgrade the inventory to level 10, after which money and mid-grade crystals would be needed. Ichijo looked at the inventory interface, complaining that level 3 was only as small as a carry-on suitcase, and decided to directly upgrade it to level 10 for more space. After the upgrade, the level 10 inventory had a volume of 7 cubic meters, equivalent to a phone booth, enough to hold a considerable amount of resources. In the car, Ichijo ordered Hatano to just drive around here, while he searched for a territory. Ichijo suddenly demanded, "Stop here." The luxurious car pulled over to the side of the road under the pouring rain. Hatano worriedly asked where his boss was going and if he needed help. Ichijo waved him off, saying he was just taking a walk, and told Hatano to adapt to the situation with the subordinates. Ichijo gave the final task. The top priority is to recover Ijuin's assets in physical form, and store them in the warehouse. Hatano nodded and asked if he needed to wait, but Ichijo said no, he would contact him later. Ichijo stepped out of the car, standing alone by the bus stop in the rain, watching Hatano's car drive away. Suddenly, he paused when he saw a familiar figure, muttering Etsuran, then asked loudly, "What are you doing here?" Natsume Etsuoka, the pharmaceutical genius, turned around and realized the person standing with her was forensic doctor Kurazono. The two seemed to have just finished a meeting, walking together in the rain. Ichijo's eyes flashed sharply, and he called her name directly. "Etsuoka." The scene shifted to a large hospital, with ambulances and armored vehicles parked closely outside. Inside a room marked VIP, Ijuin Nozomi, his face bandaged, slammed his fist on the bed and yelled bitterly, "Damn it, I've never been so humiliated." In the luxurious hospital room, all of Ijuin's trusted subordinates, including Iramen, Ishizaki Yui, and Rick, were present. Iramen crossed her arms, her voice full of sarcasm, questioning her subordinate. "So your casino plan was discovered by Hatano, and now he's using it to blackmail us?" The scarred subordinate, his head bandaged, reported gravely. "The real problem is that student. His attacks are far from ordinary, and he knows a lot about us, even calling me by name." Ishizaki Yui casually sucked on a lollipop, thinking that with their status, having their names revealed was common. Ijuin Nozomi, his face still bandaged, retorted harshly, "No, I agree with Minagawa. That guy hated me from the moment we met." He continued to analyze, asserting that the kid knew the inner workings of their project, and their takeover of Koyanagawa was a fatal threat. Iramen concluded, deciding to hand over the money to them to avoid construction delays. The scarred subordinate looked worried, while Ishizaki Yui remained silent with a pensive expression. Ijuin Nozomi sneered, his eyes glinting maliciously. "But don't panic, this is only temporary. We will get everything back," he declared firmly, vowing to reclaim both their money and their lives, one by one. The scene shifted to a cafe, where a man wearing X-frame glasses placed a stack of documents in front of Natsume Etsuoka and announced, "Here is the data you wanted." Natsume Etsuoka thanked him. "I apologize for bothering you," the man interrupted, his voice full of annoyance. "Who said I'd give it to you for free? Because you took a sudden week off. I'm stuck with a mountain of extra work." Natsume Etsuoka frankly apologized for the trouble, declared her resignation, and offered to use her salary in exchange for the research data. The man sneered, feigning disinterest in money, and made a dirty proposition. "You're very beautiful. Just stay by my side and do as I say, and I'll return the data." Natsume Etsuoka was stunned, unable to believe her ears. "What?" She firmly refused, demanding that he choose his words carefully, and only wanting her data back, while he casually told her to give up. Natsume Etsuoka slammed her hand on the table and stood up, growling, "That's my data. You have no right to take it." The man challenged her, saying the data was classified and she couldn't touch it, smugly stating she couldn't win against him, which made Natsume Etsuoka angrily shout, "Why are you harassing me like this?" The man monologued, wondering if he couldn't manage an intern, or if he had fallen for her talent, then used her mother to threaten her. "Just obey me. Don't let your mother's hard work go to waste." Splat. The entire hot coffee cup flew straight into the man's face. Natsume Etsuoka enunciated each word, her eyes blazing. "Don't you dare mention my mother!" While the man staggered from the burn, furiously swinging his hand to grab her. Just as the sleazy boss was about to swing his hand to grab Natsume Etsuoka, Shinya Ichijo appeared from nowhere, one hand stopping his wrist. The entire cafe fell silent, all eyes fixed on the table where the three were at the center of the storm. Natsume Etsuoka was astonished to recognize her savior, while Ichijo calmly reassured her, "I understand. Leave the rest to me." The boss's face contorted in pain, unable to believe a mere student possessed such terrifying strength. The boss gritted his teeth, making a wild assumption. "Ah, so this is why you dared to resign," which made Natsume Etsuoka quickly retort. Ichijo, his eyes flashing with killing intent, cut straight to the chase. "Why waste words? I'm taking her. Name your price for that pile of data." He released his grip, causing the boss to stumble, then stood in front of Natsume Etsuoka like a fortress. The boss sneered, his voice full of sarcasm. "A brat trying to play hero? If you want to be humiliated, I'll oblige." Ichijo stated his price bluntly, 10 million yen, which made Natsume Etsuoka freeze, stammering a question in shock. A young man eavesdropping in the cafe muttered, openly envious, "Damn it. I wish someone would throw 10 million at me and tell me to break up with that girl." Both Ichijo and Natsume Etsuoka remained silent, ignoring the whispers around them that a student couldn't possibly have that much money. The boss wiped his face and shooed them away. "If you can't pay, then get out. Don't waste my time." Ichijo ignored him, asking directly, "What's the account number for the transfer?" The boss sneered, challenging him. "Still running your mouth? If you can transfer it, I'll kneel and apologize right now." While Natsume Etsuoka anxiously tried to intervene, several customers in the cafe began to gossip, thinking the kid was just trying to save face and was about to be utterly humiliated. Ding! The boss froze when he saw the transfer confirmation, 11 million yen notification on his phone, unable to believe his eyes. Ichijo coldly declared, "I've transferred it. The extra 1 million is for the laundry fee for the coffee Etsuoka splashed on your face. Now, apologize to her. No need to kneel." The eavesdropping customers gaped, stunned by Ichijo's extravagance, speculating that he must be the son of some tycoon. The boss broke into a cold sweat, utterly furious as he realized he had just been forced to bow and apologize by a mere kid. Ichijo stared directly into the boss's face, his eyes sharp as knives. "Well, are you going to apologize now? Or are you going to go back on your word in front of all these people?" The boss gritted his teeth, his hand clutching the documents tightly, bitterly realizing he had been trapped by this kid. Swallowing his anger, the boss was forced to bow and hand the documents back to Natsume Etsuoka. "I apologize, Miss Etsuoka. Here, take them back." Natsume Etsuoka was still bewildered, unable to believe what had just happened as she received her research work back. The two left the cafe, walking down the bustling street under the afternoon sun. Ichijo turned to her, his expression casual. "What's wrong? Is there something you want to say?" Natsume exploded, unable to hold back any longer. "Why didn't you punch him? And you even gave him a ton of money. That data is mine. The more I think about it, the angrier I get." Ichijo calmly replied, "Ah, so that's what you're angry about. Don't worry. I won't let him actually spend that money." Ichijo explained that he had just happened to pass by, then offered to compensate Natsume by taking her shopping for new clothes. The two entered a luxurious fashion store, surrounded by designer clothes. While Natsume was choosing a pink shirt for Ichijo, he simply stood with his arms crossed, observing. A black-haired girl suddenly recognized Ichijo and pointed him out to her friend, Amane Miki. "Hey Miki, isn't that Ichijo, our class errand boy?" Miki and her friend began to whisper, wondering why a nobody like Ichijo was in such an expensive store, and with a beautiful woman, speculating that he was dating an older woman. Ichijo put on his new clothes, looking dashing and like a true high roller, making Natsume, who stood beside him, give a thumbs up in approval. Amane Miki realized that Ichijo was the one paying. She was extremely surprised and decided to follow them with her friend to watch the show. The resentful boss walked out of the store, muttering curses for being humiliated by a mere student, but he consoled himself that at least he got a large sum of money. He angrily kicked away a can on the sidewalk to vent his anger. The boss looked up, facing Hatano Toshiki, who was blocking his path with an unfriendly expression. "Are you Kurozono?" "So what? I'm not in the mood." Hatano smirked, standing with his arms crossed alongside his subordinates, waiting eagerly behind him. "Don't say that. I'm here to teach you a lesson about those 11 million yen." After his transformation, Ichijo led Natsume Etsuoka into a high-end cosmetic store. Ichijo asked if she was interested in these things. Natsume replied nonchalantly, "Well, I am a girl, after all." Suddenly, Ichijo's phone vibrated, signaling a new message. Natsume looked over curiously when she saw Ichijo open his phone to check it. On the screen was an image of the battered former boss, lying sprawled out next to several bags of goods, accompanied by Hatano's report. Money recovered, including his assets, totaling 2 million yen. Ichijo smirked contentedly, praising him with a, "Well done." And Natsume also gave a thumbs up, admiring her boss's coolness. Suddenly, Ichijo's name was called from behind. Amane Miki, the class goddess, approached with her black-haired best friend, greeting him with a fake expression. "What a coincidence, meeting you here again." Ichijo shot an icy glance, asking directly, "What do you want?" Miki immediately changed her demeanor, playing the role of a pitiful lady, profusely apologizing, and hoping things could go back to how they were, secretly thinking this trick would surely win him over. But Ichijo merely turned away coldly, completely ignoring the girl, which made Miki and her friend freeze in place. The black-haired friend whispered, unable to believe Miki's beauty trap was useless, but Miki resentfully thought Ichijo was just trying to act tough. Not giving up, Miki moved closer, intimately linked arms with Ichijo, and asked what he was buying. The girl deliberately pressed her ample chest against Ichijo's arm, confident that no man could ignore this trick. Snap. Ichijo sharply pushed Miki's hand away, declaring bluntly, "Stop that cringeworthy act. It's disgusting." Miki was heavily shocked, stammering in rage. "Disgusting? Did you just call me disgusting?" Losing all composure, Miki yelled curses at Ichijo's attitude, calling him a rude piece of trash. She turned to Natsume, sarcastically remarking that Ichijo was a dirt-poor guy who had just splurged all his money at the clothing store earlier. Miki arrogantly warned Natsume to dump Ichijo soon, and threatened to expose his entire shameful past if Natsume didn't listen. At the cashier, the lazy male clerk pushed the task onto his new female colleague. "They're arguing. Go handle it. It's your first day, a chance to show what you can do." The female clerk grumbled irritably, knowing full well that guy was just pushing troublesome work onto her. Ichijo stood still, stone-faced, only thinking to himself, truly troublesome, completely disregarding Miki's insults as mere background noise. The female clerk had no choice but to step forward, politely requesting the group not to yell in the store to avoid disturbing others. Miki puffed up her chest and declared contemptuously, "This isn't the kind of store poor people can shop in." The girl pointed directly at Ichijo, ordering, "Put those things down and get out." Ichijo ignored her, walked straight to the checkout counter with an item, making the female clerk think to herself that he was probably just buying one item out of formality. Ichijo uttered a casual but impactful statement, "I'll take everything in this store." The female clerk froze, her brain unable to process it, screaming in her head, "Huh? What the hell did he just say?" Miki and her black-haired friend also had their mouths agape, eyes wide, shocked by the shocking declaration. Ichijo held out a gleaming gold card, adding, "Include the stock in the warehouse too. Just total it up. I'll pay by card." The female clerk stammered in disbelief. Are you serious?" Ichijo confirmed curtly, "Serious." The female clerk immediately bowed deeply, hurriedly ran to report to the manager, leaving behind a tense silence. Natsume worried that Ichijo was going too far, but he calmly explained, "I'm not showing off. Sooner or later, money will become worthless paper. It's better to convert it all into supplies." Miki couldn't stand it, rushed forward and yelled, "Hey, are you crazy? Are you doing this ridiculous stunt just because your pride was slightly hurt?" Ichijo coldly replied, "It has nothing to do with you." The black-haired friend quickly pulled Miki back, whispering advice. "He doesn't seem to be joking. He must be from a rich family. Apologize, and you might still be forgiven." But Miki remained stubborn. "I'll see this through to the end." Another blonde customer approached the counter, but was informed by the clerk. "Excuse me, madam. All items in the store, including those in the warehouse, have all been reserved." The main female clerk was sweating profusely, her fingers rapidly typing on the calculator to process a unique order in the store's history. 20 minutes later, she returned with a long, long bill. "Sorry for the wait. Including items in the warehouse, that's 3,020 items. With the manager's 20% discount, the total is 120 million yen." Amane Miki and her black-haired friend had their mouths agape, completely frozen, upon hearing the figure of 120 million yen. Without a moment's hesitation, Ichijo swiftly signed the confirmation paper for the massive order. Ichijo handed back the documents to the female clerk, coldly instructing, Deliver everything to this address. The black-haired friend quickly ran over to speak up for Miki. Ichijo. Miki just lost control a little. Please forgive her. Realizing this wasn't a good situation, the black-haired friend pulled the stiff Miki back and urged, "Come on, Miki, apologize." Miki suddenly changed her tactic, switching to a whining tone, eyes sparkling. "I'm sorry. I just lost my composure because I have feelings for you." Ichijo poured a bucket of cold water on her act. "As for me, I couldn't care less about you. Etsuoka, let's go." Both turned their backs and walked away decisively, leaving Miki and her friend frozen in the middle of the store. Natsume wondered about the extravagant spending. Ichijo smirked and explained, "That's right. When the apocalypse arrives, I'll be the only one capable of buying everything. Let's go shopping again." Suddenly, a green light flashed in Ichijo's eyes. The senses of a seasoned warrior signaled trouble. He immediately turned to Natsume. In a serious tone, "Etsuoka, go back first." The space around them distorted, turning into a blazing red of a level 15 special zone. Ichijo declared, "Today's shopping ends here." Whoosh! A blinding white slash cut across the blood-red night. Ichijo, with a few streaks of blood on his face, shouldered his blood-soaked axe and calmly remarked, "Even a level 15 zone can no longer trouble us." The floor was littered with deformed zombie corpses. Ichijo stood tall amidst the neatly cleared battlefield. The level 15 special zone was complete. The phone rang, breaking the deadly silence after the battle. Hatano called to report, "We finally got Ijuin's money. A whole truckload of it. What's next, boss?" Beep beep beep. In the dark shopping mall, a truck's alarm lights kept flashing. A security guard patrolled with a flashlight, muttering to himself, "Strange. I thought someone was here." Hatano Toshiki looked at the list on his phone, sweating, his voice trembling. "This isn't a shopping list. Are you planning to clear out this entire city?" Meanwhile, Shinya Ichijo stood in the middle of the night street, calculating. Money and supplies are done. Now, only the starstones remain. Suddenly, Ichijo looked up as if sensing something unusual. A pillar of crimson light shot straight into the sky. Ichijo narrowed his eyes, concluding, "A new zone? They're appearing more frequently. The apocalypse truly is coming." The timeline shifted to one day before the apocalypse. In the research lab, Natsume Etsuoka's red-haired colleague was asking about his missing brother, while Natsume confirmed that Hatano's brother had also disappeared. Natsume looked outside, her heart filled with worry, as Ichijo was nowhere to be seen. If his words are true, the apocalypse will arrive tonight. Where exactly is he? A pair of black sneakers stepped into the room, and a familiar voice echoed, "Long time no see." Ichijo had appeared, startling Natsume and her colleague, who called out his name. Ichijo looked directly at them, his sharp eyes commanding, "Let's go, get ready." Both Natsume and her colleague were bewildered, not understanding what was happening. Hatano was already waiting outside a massive warehouse, next to a luxurious car. As Ichijo's car arrived, Hatano immediately greeted them, while the red-haired man was still confused. "Brother, what exactly are we doing here?" Hatano smirked and led the way. "I've scoured every town and finally gathered enough goods. Come and see." The heavy warehouse door opened, leaving Natsume and her colleague stunned in place. Inside was a colossal warehouse, packed with goods from floor to ceiling, neatly arranged in rows of shelves. The red-haired man screamed, "What the hell is this?" Ichijo maintained his poker face, asking Hatano if everything on the list was there, and received an affirmative answer. Hatano boasted that this was only half of it. The warehouse next door was identical. He had cleared out 4 large supermarkets to stockpile enough water, food, fuel, and essentials for a group of survivors. Hatano wondered how Ichijo would store all of this, but Ichijo merely asked about the money's location, then ordered the group to follow him deeper inside. It turned out that during this time, Ichijo had been silently grinding non-stop, single-handedly clearing out special zones and slaying countless zombies to upgrade his item box from level 20 to 40. Ichijo stopped before a marked area, preparing for the demonstration. "Watch this," Ichijo said confidently, placing his hand on a wooden crate. Crash! The crate's lid burst open, and countless gleaming gold bars spilled onto the warehouse floor. Ichijo raised his hand, and a glowing purple cube with a blue crystal core floated above his palm. Whoosh! The gold bars on the ground began to dissolve into brilliant golden particles of light. The red-haired man frantically screamed, "Hey, the gold is disappearing!" While Hatano and Natsume could only freeze in shock. Ichijo's item box space appeared, vast as 2 basketball courts, announcing it had devoured a ton of gold to upgrade its capacity to 3,500 cubic meters. Hatano and Natsume's colleagues stammered, not understanding what was happening, suspecting it was a magic trick. Shh. Ichijo motioned for silence, his sharp eyes commanding. Just watch quietly. Hatano stared blankly after Ichijo's back as he calmly walked towards other stacks of goods. Ichijo picked up a cardboard box, declaring he would answer questions after he was done. He placed the box onto a glowing blue system interface. The control panel clearly displayed level 40. The entire group watched wide-eyed as the boxes vanished into thin air. Ichijo turned back and concluded, "Believe it or not, there's no time." Ichijo began his lecture on the apocalypse. Exactly at midnight tonight, the world will be overrun with zombies and special zones will appear. What you just saw is my personal item box, and its capacity will determine your survival. He pointed to the remaining gold crates. Gold is the resource to expand the item box. That's why I had you gather it. Only half a day left until the end. Prepare yourselves, Ichijo announced, leaving Hatano and the red-haired man speechless. The red-haired man panicked. This is insane. Suddenly talking about the apocalypse. Hatano held his shoulder to calm him. Ichijo looked directly at them, stating clearly, "You've helped me, and I won't let you suffer losses. Take enough supplies to survive the initial phase." Hatano, after a moment of contemplation, his eyes becoming resolute, the gang boss made his decision. Understood. Hatano Toshiki opened the truck door slightly, his eyes filled with determination as he looked outside. The gang boss reported that the goods were loaded. Ichijo coldly ordered, "Good. Go home and prepare." Hatano unexpectedly called back, sincerely thanking Ichijo for revealing the earth-shattering secret and promising to help if needed. Ichijo merely smirked, replying with a concise, experienced remark. "Yeah, try to survive." As the truck drove away, Ichijo turned to Natsume Itsuoka. "Let's go, there's still work to be done." Ichijo noticed Natsume's demeanor, turning back to ask directly, "It seems you have something to say." Natsume burst out, questioning why Ichijo had hidden his item box ability and didn't trust her. She continued to reason naively that if the apocalypse truly came, wouldn't it be safer if everyone united? Ichijo poured cold water on her illusions. In the post-apocalyptic world, humans are even more terrifying than zombies. Giving a rookie too many resources will only bring disaster upon themselves. He continued his harsh lecture, demanding that she discard her sentimental thoughts if she wanted to survive. Otherwise, they would part ways right here. Natsume fell silent, her eyes wavering at Ichijo's ultimatum. Both looked at each other in silence, the wind blowing Natsume's blonde hair. Ichijo scoffed. "You can hesitate a little longer, but—" Natsume cut him off, bowing her head and affirming, "Don't underestimate me, I'm ready." "Time is almost up, isn't it?" Ichijo stood alone before a large warehouse, waiting. Natsume appeared with a completely new look, her hair neatly braided, wearing dynamic combat attire, declaring this was how she showed her resolve. Ichijo coldly announced, "1 minute left. Say your final goodbyes to this world." Ichijo looked into the distance, concluding, "This is the last time you'll breathe air untainted by the smell of blood." The countdown begins. 10 seconds. 7. The red-haired Mineta and his subordinates fidgeted restlessly in a luxurious apartment. 5. Hatano gazed pensively at the night city. 3. 2 seconds. Natsume Etsuoka, sweat trickling down her cheeks, her eyes resolute, awaited the fated moment. 1 second. Ichijo smirked. Boom. Countless streaks of brilliant red light, like meteors, plunged towards the city, heralding the dawn of the apocalypse.